lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Matt Williams got a brilliant start from the third row of the grid.
He's gone, he's hit him, he's straight off at the chase.
A half-second lead. Oh, but just a car in the background.
He has it. Oh, he's round on the last lap.
There's a massive accident.
Next to the inside, what a move, what a move.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to round number 9 of the Automobilista Australia Supercars Championship for 2020. It's the second trip this year across the ditch to New Zealand. Who thought we would have been doing 2 races in the land of the long white cloud this year? Well, it turns out we are, and it's the Hamilton Street Circuit playing host to tonight's 200-kilometre endurance format race. Multiple pit stops required. This is going to be an absolute torture test. If anything from the Super 2 guys was to go by the last time they were here a couple of months ago, it was a very, very unique challenge, and surprisingly, quite a large number of cars in a 20-odd car field finished that race. We don't have that many drivers here tonight. There's still a couple struggling to get in, but for the smallest field of the season so far, it still is a pretty sizable field to boot. My name's Steve DeVries, and it's a very pleasure to welcome the man we always call here at Automobilista Australia, our own encyclopedia of supercars, in Hans Brunswick. Good evening, mate.
Good evening, Steve. Thank you, mate. Good evening, everyone. Cracker of a race tonight. We're looking forward to a return to the feature round format and more times around this circuit than anyone would have ever counted on. I think it's 49 times or something, isn't
59.
it? 59. No, 10 off. Well, glad I'm not racing it, but we did race this track in Super 2. It turned on some pretty good racing there, and I mean, it's first appearance in the AMSL Supercars Championship, so only the guys who have raced Super 2, there's a couple of them in the field tonight that they'll have a bit of a advantage. But let's see if they can stop the runaway train of Kurt Stenberg.
Yeah, that's the big talking point, isn't it? This runaway train at the head of the field in Kurt Stenberg. He's got a target on his back, and there's a number of drivers at the moment in practice session taking it up to him in terms of the time. So we'll go across and have a look at those before the session is out. But firstly, a quick recap of what happened a couple of weeks ago. It was the top-end twin sprint out at Hidden Valley Raceway, the 2-race format. And here's your highlights package. So race 1 got away pretty evenly. Kurt Stenberg headed the field into turn 1. Brendan Ross had a ripping start from the third row of the grid. Was already P2 by the first corner and thought he was going to have a little bit of a nibble at Kurt Stenberg in the opening lap, but just opted to settle in. Bit of bumper cars back in the pack. A couple of cars side by side going into turn 1 and also into the hairpin on multiple laps. Bit of jockeying for position there. A couple of cars coming to contact. Not the first time and not the last time at the final corner. And there's another example of that. Thomas McMillan getting his elbows out rather early, trying to unsettle and ruffle the feathers of a couple of drivers in the field. And again, there's a bit more bumper car action back there with Liam Spencer and Steve Burko getting it on lap 2. But there was a few casualties that would fall very, very early in the race format, and this was the first one, the biggest one of the lot. Brenton Foley getting out on the grass off the final corner, car pitching sideways and heavily into the wall on the pit straight with a puncture to boot, managed to get across into pit lane. Unfortunately couldn't make the long strategy work for him, but that was the best he could do. Rosella was another victim that came unstuck at turn 1, just getting on the power a little bit too early. And some more dodgem cars between Lewis Wedding and Thomas McMillan at turn 1 as well. You can see McMillan wasn't too happy about that either. Liam Spencer, another one with the casualties. Everybody just looking to try and break everyone else a little bit more just by getting on the power a bit early. And then there was the out-braking problems into turn 1. Zach Ross on more than one occasion found himself off in the grass, losing a bunch of spots early on in the race. This was unsighted on the broadcast, but with Stenberg having built a really nice advantage over Will Devonish, he threw all of that in the bin by a mistake in the last part of the lap, which put Devonish right on his hammer. And then a lap later, Devonish decided to try and make the undercut strategy work, which ultimately wouldn't pay off. Brendan Ross also did the same thing, trying to get the undercut on Thomas McMillan in his battle for the podium. when Stenberg came out, he had quite a margin over Will Devonish, and that was due to not calculating fuel correctly at the pit stop, which put him in the better part of 5 seconds in arrears of the TCR Commodore after the stops were over. These two tangled quite a bit actually in both races. Zach Ross and Liam Spencer got it on, and there was a drag race down the front straight on about a couple of laps from home in this particular instance, and they did it again in race number 2, as you'll see a little bit further on in the highlights package. And again, Zach Ross just a little bit too late on the brakes, had the preferred sight of the brake marker boards, but just couldn't get it stopped in time for the second time in the race. Rosella and Lime Mitch buying into the battle as Rosella was on the recovery trail, getting the move done, going right around the outside at turn 1, which you don't see very often, and got beautiful drive and beautiful traction out of that corner and nosed ahead of the Monster Energy Mustang on the run up to turn 4 in a fantastic move. Lewis Wedding started making a late charge for the podium, and Brendan Ross was the hunted in this one. And Rossi, just the car pitching sideways at the wrong moment there, ultimately would lose third spot on the podium to Lewis Wedding on the final lap. But out in front, after the pit stops, another race victory to Kurt Stenberg, racking up at that time his 9th of the campaign. And then here's your race results from the first encounter. So comfortable margin in the end. In actual fact, you'll see there's a 10-second penalty for Will Devonish after that, which didn't drop him any further in the standings, but we'll talk more about that a bit later on in the night, with Wedding just holding off Rossi for third place, McMillan rounding out the top 5, and all the top 10 getting home, or top 11 in fact, getting home on the lead lap. We then reset and did it all again for race number 2. Devonish had a really poor start and got mugged by about 3 or 4 drivers on the run to turn 1. McMillan was right up there, so too was Wedding, and Rossi was monstering him as well. And this allowed Stenberg to really skip away and control the pace of this race. He would win this one unheaded for the entire duration for 32 laps. McMillan effectively acted a bit like a rear tail gunner in this one for Stenny, just holding the pack up a little bit, not being able to let any of these guys really pass, driving some nice defensive lines early on as the field all jockeyed for position on the opening lap. Pinch point at the hairpin, again another hot spot, a little bit of dodging cars, a little bit of bumping and grinding from some of the other competitors. Here's a move from Pete Savage down the inside at turn number 1 on Brendan Ross, who couldn't really maintain his form from the opening race, went a bit further backwards in this race, and he did end up getting tagged a bit later on. Now here is, I believe, that incident in question, or it might be a little bit further on. Here's one of his teammates, Bretton Foley, on the recovery drive, just making the Volvo of Steve Burko go a bit sideways. Now here was part of the incident, so Will Devonish and Thomas McMillan came together. An unsafe rejoin from Will Devonish forcing Rossi to check up, and then with Rosella with nowhere to go, Rossi ended up in the fence. And there was a post-race penalty for Will Devonish as a result of the unsafe rejoin. But nonetheless, he still managed to pick his way through the field after that poor start, with Luke Rosella trying to go with him with all the gaps that he created as all the cars that he picked off. It would take Rosella a little bit longer to get past Lewis Wedding's car. Here's a moment for Liam Spencer down at the final part of the course, and same spot we saw Kurt Stenberg go off, just not as severe. Was able to rejoin the track, and that would ultimately put him back with Zach Ross toward the back end of the race. Lewis Wedding very nearly losing it there as well, and then in fact just shooting a bit wide, and Foley and Rosella skipping straight through. That's where the move got done there. An engine disaster struck for Thomas McMillan on the main straight, and in what we described, Hans, as some very, very poor driving, just stayed on the racing line with a smoking engine, and probably what should have been a penalty but wasn't forthcoming. With Rosella still trying to pick his way through the field in pursuit of a podium spot, and Pete Savage hanging on for dear life here as they rounded the back part of the course. And then Rosella decided it was time to try the undercut, with Foley going with him. And ultimately that would work. These guys would jump Pete Savage in the pit stops. And here you go. Savage stopped a lap or two later. And then both Rosella and Foley managed to skip through, making that undercut work very, very nicely for them indeed. Brendan Ross's race went from bad to worse, but he did a 360 off the final corner, plucked a gear and kept going on. Only lost one spot in the process. Playing for Sheep Stations a bit further back, Cam Rutledge managed to try and hold off the advances of Lime Mitch and Turmo in there as he battled to stay inside the top 10 in the closing laps. And the man in the Monster Energy Mustang would try and make it work around the outside, but it wouldn't come off, and that left the door open for Turmo just to give a little bit of a nice gentle nudge and say thank you very much, I'll have another place please. There was some three-way action going into the opening corner as well, and this time it was Brendan Ross doing some lawn mowing in the grass at turn number 1. But yet again, as we said, he won this race pretty much unheralded, start to finish, controlled absolutely everything, dominated the race weekend in the same fashion that Brenton Foley did 12 months earlier, winning both races, Kurt Stenberg, and the maximum points on offer. There's your race results from race number 2. Kurt Stenberg, Luke Rosella and Brenton Foley getting up for a podium finish in that particular race as well. And another 25-second penalty for Will Devonish, which we will talk about during the night's proceedings as to how those penalties came about, because they are a bit of a red-hot talking point as to what is going on in the realms of AMS Oz Supercars. But Hans, right now, it's about time we went qualifying.
Yep, getting ready for qualifying now, the unlimited lap session, and it will definitely go under the 80-second barrier, 1 minute 20 seconds, because Kurt Stenberg, I believe he's only been doing race runs and he's in the mid-20s, so that's a pretty impressive time on race fuel, and you and I both know that most of that time is able to be made on the back straight in that chicane there, so he's definitely got it hooked up, and we're going to see if there's going to be any qualifying specials.
Yeah, that's the one we want to look out for, isn't it? Who's got the special pants on in qualifying? Who can actually make this work the best for them? It's a very, very tricky circuit, which we will have a look at between the break in session. So that's for the qualifying break going into the race. Just looking out here to see, it looks like Lime Mitch is the first man who's going to be coming out to set a lap. Now, it is a 10-minute unlimited lap session. Oh, there makes a mockery of me. Brendan Ross decides that he's the one that's going to come out and have a go first. Turmo's running down the lane. Is that Foley, is it?
Foley, Lime Mitch, Turmo, McMillan,
Foley,
and Stenberg so far.
All right.
So Foley will be the first car out, and if he goes on with it, he'll be the first car to set a lap in this session.
All right, just going to take a quick break for a quick second just to sort a little something out on the timing here. Timing tree has not appeared, so we'll pick that up, and we'll go back to the session now. Here we go. All up and running again. Apologies for the slight error. Brett Foley, the man out. It's a bit hard to distinguish these guys too, because we have got a little bit of an update that Brendan Ross is actually taking over the Phil Boat car, and both cars look remarkably similar to each other. Very, very subtle differences between the two cars, aside from the car number. Oh, Lime Mitch with a big whack of the wall.
And Turmo in the background has gone into the fence as well. So, two of the Super 2 runners, you'd think that having run here in the Super 2 Championship that they would actually have a bit of an advantage, but yet to see. It's all come undone for them. Just on the first lap, lucky for them though, that they weren't on a qualifying lap, it was just the out lap. Yeah,
that puts them in a bad position though too. If they were planning on doing like a 2 or 3 lap run, then they've really got to throw all that out the window. Now they've got to start looking at picking a spot on track where they can feed into the traffic, but they're not going to impede anybody. There's only 14 cars in the server. A couple of drivers have struggled to get in. I think Scott Stancliffe being one of those. Now you can see there's Lime Mitch and Rhodey in the lane. They're just in the right spot here. They're going to fall into the gap behind Brenton Foley. Now let's have a look at the sector times here, Hans, because the Super 2 guys are actually pretty quick in Super 2. Like the best lap for a driver in Super 2, I think was a 1:21.1, which is not too bad. There's a couple of small modifications to the Supercars Championship, and we're seeing some times comfortably in the mid-23s, although Foley's very wide there at turn 4. The sweeper, and he's aborted that lap. And yeah, just running down the outside of the circuit here, and back to the garage he goes.
Easy to do there, and Ross has had some troubles, Rhodey's had some troubles.
Who's the man that's on a hot lap at the moment? The first one with a hot lap right now. I think Kurt Stenberg, we'll have a look and see what he's up to. He'd set a similar time through the first sector to what Foley had. Foley actually set a 29.3, and a 29.2 for Foley, 29.3 for Stenberg. That 29.2 for Foley was obviously before his little moment coming out of turn 4.
Stenberg on maximum tack here. He's heading up into turn 9, ITM bend, revised for this AMS Supercars series since the Super 2 round. Just taking away some of the liberties with the track cuts there. So now the track cuts are harsher, so he needs to be careful that no one goes over that tyre.
How close was he to the wall there on the approach to the final corner?
There.
That's like a cigarette paper's width in that one. There was not a lot in it at all.
That's commitment, because usually we've seen guys just take a bit of a wider line through there. And what's the opening salvo? 120.68. That's an impressive time.
Very, very
already
nice.
From Stenberg, and he's already a second up on McMillan.
He's a man that we're looking forward to seeing what he can do. He's been setting some pretty decent times. This is Steve Burko. He was right up there in Super 2 toward the front end of the pack, along with a number of the quick Kiwis. Tim Redmond and Scott Stancliffe were mixing it at the front as well. And he's moved over to the Loose Sim Sport Falcon that was previously occupied by Pete Savage for this round, I believe. Also moving forward, he'll be in that car. There's some commitments from Pete Savage, or you could hear him rub the wall on the run out of turn 4 as well. Another one on maximum commitment. Probably going to be a low 21.2. Not a bad opening time to start with as well. Will Devonish,
fair way away from Stenberg.
Oh, look at the margin. Devonish has found.
Devonish.
Look at the margin, 5 thousandths of a second.
5 thousandths of a second.
That's
unbelievable.
That is as close as it gets right now, and he's pressing on. Stenberg's caught in a little bit of traffic here. I think he's in behind Brenton Foley on the run down to turn 2. So he's just behind the pair of them at the moment. Oh, there's a big crash. I'm not sure, is that further ahead of Devonish, or where's that? Have a look at this though, right? His PB, he's bettered his PB through Sector 1. But he's still down on what? Lime Mitch has gone to the top. That's the reason why he's behind. Lime Mitch has all of a sudden gone to the top with a 20.634. So a couple of
unbelievable.
That's really good. Super 2 guys coming to play early on. And Lime Mitch aborted. He's actually ready to come out and have another crack at a lap. So I was wondering why Devonish was up on his own PB all of a sudden and then wasn't down on the pole time.
New fastest lap, 120.337 for Luke Rosella. So we're getting closer. We're getting closer to the magical 79-second barrier.
And this, of course, is the track, Hans, that there are no previous lap records for AMS Oz Supercars. There's the Super 2 ones, but not the Supercars. So whoever gets pole tonight is going to have a little slice of history to their name. And Rosella looks like he's backed out of this one, and Lime Mitch is just coming out on an out lap. Looks like Scott Stancliffe's finally managed to get his way into the service. It'll be good to see what he can do if he can get out there in the next 4.5 minutes. Oh, there's a...
Stancliffe, one of the drivers in Super 2, been, as of lately, setting the pace. But your top 5 at the moment, Rosella, Lime Mitch, Will Devonish, Kurt Stenberg and Steve Burko.
Yeah, they sure are. So nice, and look at the margins too. So the top 5 separated by just over a half a second on street circuit. So very, very close times there. And Devonish and Stenberg, the closest of the lot. What Stenny got in store this time around. I'm not sure how he's going with this one. So look at the quite a substantial distance off the pole time, but maybe this is just a phasing in lap. Oh, that's a little
probably
bit
a track cut.
Yeah, I think that's probably a track cut if ever I saw one. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't.
And we'll see in the track guide that the track cuts are very, very tight here. So if you do run all, I know you managed to get a second sector time there, so that wasn't too bad. But at the back straight, you have to have margin for error during the race. Not so much in qualifying. You can just go as crazy as you want in qualifying. But in the race, for sure, there will have to be a little bit of margin left on the table to enable some sort of mistakes if they require that sort of margin.
There are a couple of drivers yet to set some times. Brenton Foley, Lewis Wedding and Scott Stancliffe looks like he's making his way out of the lane right now, just allowing some room for Kurt Stenberg. There he is on left of screen, allowing the 47 through. So 3 more drivers yet to set some times. Wedding, I think, is...
lock break into turn 1, so he's just made a meal of that one. Lewis Wedding's coming out.
Yep, Lewis Wedding actually saw him on a lap before, but he balled it out of the chicane and did a loop. So he has got another bit of time to set. We go and have a look.
Lime Mitch.
Oh, Lime Mitch.
52.52 in the second sector. That's 0.2 of a second up on Rosella.
And he's up too. And Rhodey's on a fast lap as well too. So Rhodey's trying to put a decent lap together here. Can he just hang on to the back of Lime Mitch? Oh, hang on. Lime Mitch is aborted. Oh, that's terrible for Rhodey because Rhodey, I think, may have been on a fast lap there. And I think he may very well have been. And he probably didn't expect Lime Mitch to do his doing. Maybe Lime wasn't happy with that sector and probably wasn't quite fully aware. Oh, it was a track cut, I think, maybe for Lime Mitch. Got a track cut somewhere in the sector, and that's why he aborted. All right. So men
that
get
was
to
a good-looking time.
It was looking very, very handy up to the second sector split. Maybe he just got stung at ITM corner. So Stancliffe out there, Wedding out there. Foley's going to be the next one that we want to really take a look at to see what time he can set.
Stenberg to the top, 120.079.
79. Alrighty, now we're starting to get serious. So now puts himself on the front row to Kurt Stenberg with a mighty, mighty lap. Purple only in the middle sector though, so that's a bit of a surprise. But it was a 22.937 middle sector. Foley's opening lap yields a low 21, I think. Oh, 20.775. That's in the game. That's not bad, but he's not going to do anything going like that. So he's only had one lap. I want to go back and take a look at Lime Mitch though. There's a couple of guys setting hot laps. So Lime Mitch has set a pretty decent. Oh, he's aborted it again. Another one I just saw was Liam Spencer was looking pretty handy at the first sector split. He actually was only a 10.5 away from the best time at the first sector split. So this might launch him up the order. Just a half a second down. That's not too bad.
Well, we need to be careful there. Hopefully he didn't get a cut at ITM Bend.
No,
that is on the limit.
At this rate, he'll probably find himself around Steve Burko if he can keep it together. He's going to get one more shot. Stenberg's got one more lap, so he's about to start his final lap. And that was a track cut on that lap for Stenberg as well. Spencer he improves to P7, so he lost a little. He just improves his time but stays P7, so he lost a little bit more time there. So Rosella gets another lap. Lime Mitch is looking pretty handy through the first sector as well, keeping tabs on him on the other side of the screen at the minute. So this is Lime Mitch's final lap. Actually, we'll go to Lime Mitch now. No, he's aborted, so he got another track. He got a track cut through the chicane. So that's him.
Stenberg will go for another lap.
Yep, he's on one at the moment. Oh, big moment for Rhodey! Massive moment for Rhodey off the turn 8. That is huge, and flames and all. And Burko is aborting as well. He's run deep there.
Kurt Stenberg has done the fastest first sector. He's 3/10 up on his previous best first sector. Let's see what the split time is in sector 2. And it's still about 3/10 up. So he lost a bit of time in the second sector, but he's still there or thereabouts. And this lap will be in the 19s for sure if he can continue on with it.
Rosella's behind him, also tracking like he's going to try and knock off a 19 as well. So don't think this is over and done with just yet. There might be something late in the tail here. Stenberg off of the final corner, turn 14. And running down to the line. Tight line. It's going to be a 19. 19.6. And then we go back to Luke Rosella. Fantastic. What's he got in store for him? Is he going to be in the 19s as well? No, 20.2. So he did improve, but it was a late improvement from Stenberg that did the damage at the end. I've also
firmly into the 19s as well. Well done, Stenberg.
Very, very nicely done. And then Lime Mitch. What a surprise packet for Lime Mitch. Being up there in P3. Job well done.
Lime Mitch has pulled out some great first sectors, but unfortunately hasn't been able to continue on with it. He would get a track cut in the second sector or through ITM Bend. So, and actually his fastest sector was a 29.022. So that's one of the fastest I've ever seen.
Oh, that's a storming first sector.
That's about a 10th of a second faster than anyone else, and that was a 10th of a second faster than Kurt Stenberg's pole lap.
He was 4/10 down on. He was 4/10 down on Stenberg in sector 2, and he was about 6/10 away in sector 3. So you had plenty of time to gain it in Lime Mitch, but we'll see what he can do in the race. Time for our Supercars hot lap, and a bit of a surprise for you on this one. See if you can guess who this is.
Welcome aboard for a lap of the Hamilton Street Circuit. Just passing the start-finish line now, 6th gear. brake before the 200 marker, down to second gear for turn 1. Get a good exit, gentle on the throttle. Then up to 5th gear here, and braking at the 150 marker. And back down to second for this hairpin turn, gentle on the throttle again, not get too much wheel spin, don't hurt the tyres too much. And up to 4th for turn 3 and 4. For turn 4 we get back down to second gear. Make sure we get a good exit for the chicane on the back straight. And just feather the throttle slightly, not to get a track cut. Oh, we didn't get a track cut there. And back down to 3rd gear for turn 8, right-hander, long right-hander. Easy to miss the apex there. And here we go to turn 9. ITM turn, gentle through there. Short shift a little bit through turn 10, now turn 11. Right-hander. Turn 12 and turn 13, which takes us back onto the main straight. Now in qualifying you can expect laps that are under 80 seconds or 1 minute 20 and maybe even into the 119s. Great little racetrack this, and we enjoyed racing it in Super 2 this season, and we're keen to see how it will go in its first appearance in AMS Oz Supercars.
Well, if you were playing along at home, I'm sure you can guess who that was. It's the voice that is opposite myself here in the commentary box in Hans Brunswick. And who better person to talk to us about this unique street circuit than the man himself? Hans, I'll leave this one with you.
Thanks, Steve. And what a unique street circuit this is. Saw a bit of action in the real life V8 Supercars Championship. It superseded the Pukekohe circuit. Pukekohe is now back on the calendar and has been for a number of years now. But Hamilton was one of those circuits that in the interim was the Supercar circuit, and it makes its first appearance tonight in the AMS Oz Supercars Championship. 3.4 Ks in length, 13 turns. The race distance tonight will be 200.6 kilometres, and that will be about 59 laps. And what's interesting about this circuit, we did actually our longest races in the Super 2 Championship at this circuit. They were 60K races, and they were about, I believe, 18 laps they were, Steve, and they were a bit of an endurance test for us then, and the tyres were struggling to last. So 59 laps around here, it's definitely going to be raising a few heart rates.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a real torture test on some of these tyres. I think the tyres, you're right, they were just starting to hang on at the back end of the race session for the 2 Super 2 races that we had here. But it was a bit of a carnage at some of those starts as well. 20 supercars going into turn 1 on such a short run really doesn't work sometimes. So these guys are going to have to be careful. I know there's only 15 of them in there tonight, but turn 1 is going to be a real hot spot for action on the opening lap or two at least. We'll have a quick look at the point standings coming into tonight as well. So, driver standings. So, TTR Commodore Kurt Stenberg has a nice 213 point advantage coming into tonight's proceedings over, she's not 213 points. I do apologise. My thing on my other screen has scrolled down a little bit, so it's actually telling me someone else's one. It's 177, is what the margin is there between Stenberg and Devonish, and then a little bit further back to Brenton Foley, another 174 points back to Brenton Foley, who moves into P3. Burko has moved up the order, obviously competing last time out in the Volvo, and then Termo finds himself in the top 5, so good job from Termo just to be ahead of the more seasoned campaigner and Lewis Wedding as well. And a couple of other drivers just starting to sneak their way into the top 12 on the points graphic there. Hans, one of the men that we've been speaking about tonight already, Lime Mitch, perfect segue. His third place on the grid tonight is his best qualifying in supercars. You can see there his series that he's been competing in so far this year in AMS Oz. The main one that sticks out there like a sore thumb is the 11 first place victories in Super 2. The rest of it he hasn't been able to crack too badly. He's got a second place in ATCC, and then the other one's been GT3. He's had 5 fourth places in a row up until the 5th place that he ran on Tuesday night. And Supercars, he hasn't quite been able to get up there, but is tonight his night? Can we see a podium from the Monster Energy Mustang?
This would definitely be the circuit for him to do it at. He was very fast at Hamilton. I believe he won both of the races. very forceful driver, Lion Mitch, and he definitely puts that to good effect in the reverse grid races in Super 2. But he's put in some good showings in ATCC and in the recent GT3 Sprint Series. And Supercars he's just waiting for a breakout run in Supercars. And like I said, it's definitely going to be the track for him to do it at.
Yeah, I think the previous history that he has here at this track as well, and you're right, he did win both those races. That included the reverse grid race, would you believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen? The 20-odd cars with the reverse grid. One thing about Lime Mitch is if he gets his start hooked up, he is gone. So if he gets a really good launch off of the second row of the grid tonight, he'll be first by the first corner. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, very forceful driver is Lime Mitch. He can definitely carve his way through a field, and when he's up against it, he can actually put in a good performance, especially if he drops back down in the field, because he has a very good prowess in overtaking, and he does get a lot of moves done where a lot of guys couldn't do it.
Yeah, he really throws a little bit of caution to the wind sometimes. Sometimes it's got him into a bit of trouble, but in more recent times he's learnt to just taper that just a little bit. We saw that on Tuesday night in the GT3 Sprint Series. He does just... he knows when to attack a little bit now, but he also knows when the move is not on. So that's one thing that was kind of missing from his repertoire that he's now managed to get. And being reminded by Pete Savage, who has been involved in the Super 2 as well, that he actually did take pole position here in that Super 2 Series round. Actually, when was it, Hans? It was like it was like 3 months ago or something now. It feels such a long time now, doesn't it?
Feels like an eternity ago.
Absolute eternity. And they're following the same calendar that we're following, so it was the 9th round for them, and we're about to go into round 14. So, yeah, it was about 3 months ago now, actually. We're close enough to the mark. Let's bring up the team's points, just so we can see how the team standings are. So it's still pretty much unchanged at the front. The margin has changed a little bit, so CRE Race Engineering and Loose Sim Sport going hammer and tongs at the front there, and PBF Race Engineering in third place. So it's still... the 12 teams there on the board. The one big talking point, which we had seen in recent rounds, we'd seen it at Townsville. We saw it last time out of Hidden Valley, and now we have it 100% confirmed that Phil Boak is stepping out of the 046 for PBF Race Engineering due to some personal commitments, and Brendan Ross will move across from PBF Team Bundaberg into the number 046 for the remainder of the season. That means that D2 Dwayne Davies car is unfortunately not being used very much at the moment, but on our screens here I believe you'll actually see there's a little bit of a slight change for this particular race. Brendan Ross has had to jump back into his previous car for tonight's proceedings, and I believe we've also got a minor livery change that's missing for Luke Rosella as well. There's been a few little hiccups in the last couple of days in a personal life, so I've missed a couple of small things, but you will see Brendan Ross is competing for PBF Race Engineering, but he is on the broadcast screens tonight. You will see him in the his previous car, the 444 PBF Bundaberg Racing one. So that's the official verdict there. Now,
also interesting to note that Steve Burko has stepped into the seat formerly occupied by Pete Savage.
Correct.
Pete Savage having a bout of, I believe his work commitments. Pete is watching the stream, he'll correct me, but he is unable to commit as much time to the Supercar series. He did put in some good performances, and our series will definitely be poorer for it, but a very talented and able driver in Steve Burko, who's really come on gangbusters lately. In the Super 2 series and in pretty much every series he races, Steve Burko, he's put in some good performances, and who better to replace him than Steve Burko himself. So fantastic to see that he's got the call up.
Yep, that's a very, very nice move, I think, as well. Very, very good call by Lewis Wedding. And the other thing, too, about Pete Savage, he has been battling, I believe it's a hand injury of some nature as well. He was struggling a little bit in GT3s on Tuesday night. Managed to grab both race victories. The last one he grabbed by the skin of his teeth. Pulled off a fantastic move around the outside at the final chicane on Will Devonish as well on the last lap, and got to the line by basically a hair. I think the margin at the end of the day was 0.094 of a second. It was the second closest finish, actually equal second closest finish in GT3 series history for AMS Oz. So That goes to show you after 30 minutes of racing how quickly, how close a number of drivers were. Now, one thing we do need to talk about, Hans, is the two penalties that we did see on the points graphics, also the results graphics in the little replay thing there. So Will Devonish was handed, actually, believe it or not, he was handed a trio of penalties. Now, the two penalties, he got 10 seconds in each race for disobeying the track limits on the run to turn 1, and there were several occasions where he actually had all four wheels over the outside of the white lines, so he got 2 sets of 10 seconds for those. He didn't lose any spots in race 1 as a result, but it was because it was applied to the second race that made it a consistent penalty, so that's why you saw that flash up. And the other one, which you did see in the little review there of last round, was he did come back onto the track unsafely after that battle with Thomas McMillan, which forced Brendan Ross to check up, which then unfortunately meant that he got tagged by Luke Rosella and went around. So consistent penalty for the unsafe rejoins of 15 seconds. So unfortunately for a second place finish on the night, that actually meant after everything was all said and done that it dropped him to 6th on the road in race 2. So he did lose a fistful of points. And if I do the math, just looking at how much the points allocation pays, so he would have been second. He ended up with 138 points, but 6th gives him 111, so that's a 27-point loss on the night, and 27 points took it from 150-point deficit to 177. So he's been on the back foot a little bit, but he unfortunately, it's not the first little skirmish we've seen from him, but he's starting a little bit deeper in the field tonight than he would normally like. He's starting off, I think, row 2 or 3 actually, so not something we're used to seeing a lot of him starting not on the front row.
Yeah, this circuit's quite unique, so maybe it doesn't quite suit his driving style. And of course, there are a couple of people who in Super 2 have got a bit of experience on this circuit already, so it will make something a little bit different, and hopefully we can get all through cleanly on the first lap. 15 cars tonight, and we'll see how it ends up, Steve.
Yeah, we certainly will. Just waiting for the session to tick over. Not too far away from a race start now. And 59-lap torture test, Hans. What on earth are we expecting in this one?
Hopefully not chaos. There are a few less cars than when we raced in the Super 2 round here a few months ago. And hopefully that will mean a bit more room around this 3.4 kilometre circuit. But anything can happen at this track, especially if you get it all wrong on the back straight chicane. It can go wrong very quickly, and when it does, there's usually a car flying through the air.
Yeah. Well, that's the one thing we also need to cover off as well, is that the drivers will have been told in the driver's briefing that it is a single lane through the back chicane. The car that is ahead at the 150 metre board is the car that has the right of way, so they will have to be very, very mindful of that. There are unfortunately a couple of little invisible blocks on the outsides of the chicane that we haven't been able to remove. So if you get out of step or you try and cut the chicane for whatever reason, you are going skywards. All right, here we go. The grid is on the formation lap, and Hans, let's take a look at the field of 15 cars.
Kurt Stenberg off pole, another superb pole position. 1:19.6 was the pole lap time. Only car in the 19s, followed by Luke Rosella. Another great qualifying effort in the AAR Volvo. That's followed by Lyle Mitch in the Monster Energy Mustang. Good performance from the Super 2 runner. Second in the Super 2 Championship, and maybe could put on a good result tonight. I've been corrected. He did win the race 1 at Hamilton in the Super 2, and he did finish second in race 2. That second race was won by Tim Redmond, who's watching in the chat. Hello, Tim. And Will Devonish out of 4th on the second row of the grid. Uncharacteristic of Will, but hopefully he can get a good start. Steve Burko jumps into the seat that's been left unoccupied by Pete Savage, followed by Brenton Foley. Thomas McMillan, my apologies. Liam Spencer out in 7th. Then Thomas McMillan in the Pleb Simsport VB Commodore. Brendan Ross in the 444 PBF Commodore. That's actually the PBF Bundaberg Commodore on your screen, Steve, because of the updates, but I've got him on my screen as an HRT car, which is fantastic. Wayne Spencer rounds out the top 10. Good performance from him. He's been performing solidly in a few different series and most notably in the Porsche Cup, which is good to see. Lewis Wedding out of 11th. Let's see if he can make those tyres last tonight. Caitlyn Duncan, another Super 2 runner. We've seen him. He's now in the guest car, the Nissan Motorsport number 23. Tomo out of 13th. Good consistency has seen him get up into the top 5 in points. Brody in 14th. And Scott Stancliffe, final car on the grid, another Super 2 runner and a bit of the pace setter in the recent past, out of 15th place.
Yeah, let's keep an eye on Scott Stancliffe. Let's see how quickly he can pick off a couple of the cars from the back of the grid. He's one I expect to sort of make up a few positions rather quickly on lap 1 or 2. Another one of the runners that's had some previous experience here.
He's a Kiwi as well.
Yep, the quick Kiwis we like to call them. They come thick and fast.
Kiwi crew.
Yep, they come thick and fast in Super 2. Tim Redmond, Scott Stancliffe, NZ Snipes, all those guys are the very quick Kiwi crew. Cheese is in there as well, I believe. So
Taipan
too. So it'd be nice to see.
Plenty of Kiwis.
Plenty of Kiwis in there. Here we go. All the cars lining up on the grid. Oop, not too much longer to go. So Stenberg and Rosella, Mitch and Devonish, and then Burko and Foley. That is your top 6 you can see on screen there. Then back to Spencer, Thomas McMillan, and then behind them, Brendan Ross and Wayne Spencer, your top 10. So let's keep an eye on how they go. Evening to everybody in the live chat. Hope you enjoyed the broadcast. Hope you enjoy 59 laps of the Hamilton Street Circuit. Let's get rocking. Away we go off the start. Not a bad start from the front row. Kurt Stenberg and Luke Rosella were away pretty evenly. Better secondary phase to start for Stenberg, and he leads. McMillan's having dodgem cars on the run. Yeah, McMillan was trying to split the middle, and there was cars that went here, there, and everywhere as McMillan got a reasonable launch. We might have to have a bit of another look at that just to see how that all went down, but he's now moved up to P3. Limich is P4 on the outside and running around the outside of Steve Burko. So let's go back and have a little bit of a look just at the start from the Thomas McMillan point of view. I want to see how he went. So he got a pretty reasonable launch, was in the middle, and he tried to wedge himself into a hole that wasn't there. I think that's probably going to be looked at post-race.
So McMillan and Foley had the best starts out of the field, and Lime Mitch went absolutely backwards. So too will.
Oh, there's a car flying. The back of shot. Sorry to cut you off there. That's Brendan Ross. It's gone absolutely skyward. He is. He's hit that curb that we were talking about, the brick wall, and he's gone absolutely A over T. He's going to have to get himself going. Now, he can get going. He will have to do a drive-through as part of the whole thing of reseeing to track, but just while we were having a look at what was going on there, what on earth happened to Brendan Ross? He was on the outside.
He's just gone too wide.
He was on the outside of Scott Stanton. He didn't yield. He didn't yield at the 150 board, and that's paid the penalty. The drivers were warned about that, so that's a big mistake.
Ended up Brody nosing into him when he was over on his head. Turmo has gone backwards as well. No, he's in the place he started. He's in 13th. So hopefully no incidents for Turmo. Foley's way back down the order in 12th. And Stancliffe already up 4 spots into 11th.
Yeah, he has too. Now, Thomas McMillan started to go backwards here. Lime Mitch has managed to make a move stick. Now Devon is just trying to get it done. If he can hang tough around the outside here at 3 and into 4, he'll have the preferred shootout of turn 4. Just a little bit of rubbing there, or rubber the wall, and a bit of bumping going on. Now, who's going to yield here? The car that's ahead has to back out at the 150 board, and that was just then, and Devonish is the one that does it. So that's probably smart driving. It could have gone either way, that one. But they somehow get through the back chicane at 5, 6 and 7, and now on to turn 8. Oh, Pete Savage. I keep saying Pete Savage. You have to get used to this. It's Steve Burko that's in that car under pressure from Wayne Spencer, who's had a pretty reasonable start. Obviously, that's at Foley's expense as well, having exited at turn 1. And seeing Brendan Ross has made it back to the lane for damage repairs, so he's going to go a lap down. That's the one thing too here, Hans. You come in for a pit stop, you're going to go a lap down, if not possibly even close to 2, depending on what time you come in for your stop.
Yeah, pit lane as well as the short lap time. Very not that short of a circuit, but it is a very quick circuit. High average speed. And Burko's just had a lag moment, so he was ahead.
And I'm wondering if there was some contact there with Wayne Spencer as a result of the lag as well, possibly as well. We did see that GT3s on Tuesday night. He had something similar happen as well.
Dancliffe making a move on Duncan. He's firmly up the inside, and he's going to park it there.
Nice job.
And
moves right across and gets the block on as well. So very, very nicely done from Stancliffe. Already advancing his way up the order. The next target for him is Wayne Spencer. Wayne's another one of the ones that runs in Super 2 as well, so he'll be pretty familiar with this circuit. Duncan not giving up the ghost either, trying to hang on to Stancliffe's coattails as they fly through this chicane. And look at this, fanning out. Even Liam Spencer's getting his elbows out here, having very late look at the Nissan of Duncan as well, and wetting around off of the corner as well. Yep, so he has he's had a bit of a moment. He's just off to the left a shot there. There he is, getting himself together. And we might just go and have a bit of a sneaky look and see what happens to Lewis on that one. Let's go on board. So how'd he go with the chicane? Little ease out of the throttle. And I think he just got himself hung up on the curb on the exit of turn 8.
Gassed it up.
Gassed it up. Actually gassed up before the turn. And that's the end of that. That's the end of that chapter.
That 5-car battle has now become a 4-car battle. And Stancliffe, he's braked way too late. He's got into the fence. And Caitlyn Duncan's giving him a serve as well. So Stancliffe loses all that hard work he's just done on Liam Spencer. But lucky not to lose another position. He's still in 9th. And he's definitely one of the pace setters in Super 2. He's put on some good performances, especially recently at the Bathurst round. Very competitive there. And hopefully he can put in a good, solid performance at his home track.
Yeah, Will Devers.
Meanwhile, Burko's left Spencer behind. Sorry to cut you off, Stephen.
Yeah.
It's actually a battle between McMillan and Devonish, and they're battling hard.
Yeah, McMillan is still hanging on. Devonish has got the run here down to ITM corner at turn 9, and might just hold him a bit high and wide here, and he gives him some fair room, so that's good. He'll have the next spot for the next right-hander. Oh, and that's a little bit too close for comfort. I don't think McMillan left enough room there. That was very, very close for comfort. That immediately puts Devonish under some pressure from Steve Burko. Might have just closed down the margin just a little bit. He'll have to have another go at that. We might have a look at that from the Will Devonish perspective. So here he is on board. It's ITM corner. So that's all fair. Will leaves him some space on the outside. A little bit of bumping and rubbing. And that's about 50-50 that one. It looks a little bit more different from the onboard there, Hans. Maybe there's a little bit of might be play on in that instance, I think.
Got to be up to the B pillar.
Yeah,
and sometimes you go
marginal.
for a gap.
It was very, very marginal.
50-50. But sometimes you go for a gap, and all of a sudden the door closes on you.
It's like the
Rosella.
in centre analogy, I guess, isn't it? Remember you no longer commit yourself to a gap. You are no longer a racing driver. McMillan's had to back out of it, and then he gone skywards. He's collected Devonish along with it. Massive accident. Massive accident. Now, that was a bit strange because Will was behind at the 150 board and he backed out of it. And that's the end of Thomas McMillan. So we probably need to have a bit more of an in-depth look at this one as well, I think. So here's the run out of turn 4. So Will backs out to take the chicane, and then McMillan cuts straight through, and Devonish's got nowhere to go.
I think Steve Burko took on some damage as well from that.
Very possible.
So,
have to keep an eye
ideal.
out that one. Yeah, not ideal at all. And that's not what Will Devonish wanted out of all of that. That he might be able to carry on until he gets to the pit stops and maybe take some damage repair on at that point in time. Although that being said, the car doesn't look in too bad a shape. It's not like when we looked at Wayne Spencer's rear wing at Townsville and was sitting at a bit of a jaunty angle. He may have escaped this. Let's have to keep an eye on his lap times just to see how he goes.
Speaking of was it Spencer, Liam's just gotten ahead of Dad Wayne. And Wayne, I'm sure, will be saying that everything he does right, he's taught him.
Yep.
But pretty hot battle right now between the two of them. And Liam's just starting to eke away slightly from him. And Liam was another one of the pace setters at this track at Hamilton in the Super 2 round. And unfortunately has had to pull out of the Super 2 series due to work commitments as well. So good to see him putting in a good performance.
Yeah, doing really, really well in Supercars. And I believe father and son are actually going to team up for the Bathurst 500 as well, which will make 2 father and son pairings. The other pairing being Noah and Greg Turra.
So Thomas McMillan, DNF.
And Brendan Ross has now got his lap back from Thomas McMillan as well, so he's no longer last out of the 15-car field.
And Luke Rosella, he's half a second behind Kurt Stenberg. New fastest lap of the race, Will Devonish,
Well,
120.68.
if that's a sign of the
That
fact he's carrying some
surpasses the
damage,
129.
that sort of rules the damage argument out now, doesn't it, Hans?
120.9.
That takes the damage argument completely away.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe just superficial damage. Luckily, he didn't get any steering or suspension damage. I'm watching Rosella. He gets a good run through there.
Just seeing a couple of comments coming through in the chat. I was just wondering, one of the people that we normally see out of Supercars is Cam Rutledge, and just getting some word through that he lost his internet tonight, unfortunately. So that's one car that he's been a mainstay of Supercars for the better part of the last 3 years, and unfortunately not in there tonight. But it's good to see he's following along in a live chat, along with our Kiwi friends and some of the Super 2 guys getting ready for action tomorrow night for Sandown as well. Second last round of the season.
Good to see Daniel Cox in there as well, another Super 2 runner. Mike Coulston, a long-time AMS Oz campaigner, and also Stairs, one of our broadcasting buddies.
Yep,
Good
Stairs.
to see Stairs in the chat.
Yeah, some nice.
And Brian Malt as well.
I call them the Stairs comments. There was, I think, referred to the opening barrel roll from Brendan Ross as the Red Baron, which is very nice to see. Stairs always very quick-witted with some of those comments. I wish I had the ability to pick up some of those words sometimes, but they sort of don't come to me as quickly as they do to some other people.
If ever I've seen someone who can come up with a one-liner, it's Stairs. He definitely knows how to come up with a one-liner.
Now here's a little battle pack that's just started to unfold. Now, Brendan Foley's kicked away from it, but you've got Scott Stancliffe, you've got the lap runner of Brendan Ross in between himself and Caitlyn Duncan, and then Lewis Wedding's trying to recover to catch up to them as well. Now, Rossi's trying to get his lap back from as many people as he can. And if he does that to Stancliffe, which he's done now, he's going to have to be able to drive away from him to be able to avoid the blue flags.
Now let's see what Stancliffe's pace looks like at the moment, because he's not looking as strong as he was earlier in the race. He's just tagged that wall there, I think. So you saw the car just jolt to the left.
Yeah, you got
Or
a track,
to his left,
you got a
driver's
track cut
left.
on the last lap as well, Hans. So that's probably not going according to plan for him. But apart from when he's not getting the track cuts, he's been solidly in the high 24s to the low 25s for most of it. So, or the last couple of laps at least, anyway.
He has been in traffic though, so we've seen that in the Super 2 round. The race pace was in the 22s for the top runners, but right now, race pace in the 20s for these guys. This is fantastic pace.
Wedding's now caught them. Wedding has now caught them too, Hans. So that Brendan Ross, and look, Brendan Ross has literally driven away from Stancliffe. So I'm wondering whether Stancliffe's going maybe a little bit cautious, maybe to preserve. He's got a track cut. He maybe just wants to preserve. If in case he needs
steering
it down the
damage
time.
on board, actually. I can just see on his onboard, and Caitlyn Duncan sends it.
Big
Didn't get a
out.
stop.
Yep, and he's off in the runoff road there, so doing a little pirouette, get back onto the track, and away he goes. And yeah, pure and simple out-braking manoeuvre there. It's a bit hard braking into turn one because it's bumpy. It's the hardest stop out of all of them because you're coming from such a long way back off of a relatively high speed turn 14.
And the 200-metre marker is not at 200 metres, it's more like 175.
Yeah.
If you brake at the 200-metre markers, you are not making that corner, so you have to brake a little bit before it. But there is a unique way of getting around this circuit, and the guys that are able to do it and adapt to it, they will be the most competitive. And the guys that are doing the best at the moment, Flying Mitch, Luke Rosella, and Kurt Stenberg, your top three at the moment. Kurt Stenberg starting to break the back of Luke Rosella here. Started to kick away. That half a second margin has now blown out to 1.1 seconds. And Lime Mitch, he was hanging out about the 2.93 second margin to second place, but he is now 3.5 seconds back.
That's it. I apologise to Luke Rosella as well. I am missing his updated livery in the pack. There's been a couple of dramas in our household here over the last couple of days. My wife's still currently being in hospital, and there have been one or two things that I've missed. So the cars are still there, the track is still there, but there's just a couple of liveries that are missing. Luke Rosella's livery at present is actually a bright white AAR livery with a bit of black on the rear and a nice fluorescent green pinstriping down there as well. So we'll get that sorted for the next round.
Oh,
very deep.
Run wide.
Yeah, we just saw it on the side there. He just ran a little bit deep. That would have lost him a ton of time. He was actually matched Kurt Stenberg through the opening couple of sectors. 2 tenths out of Sector 1. It was a tenth up in Sector 2. And he's going to lose a huge chunk of time in Sector 3. We'll just wait for the sector times to come up in our live race. See a 21.1 there for Stenberg, 22.2 for Rosella. So he lost a full 8 tenths of a second or so in that final sector alone.
Lion Mitch also in the 21, so his pace is coming on strong right now, and he's been consistently in the 21s. Apart from the first couple of laps where he's in a bit of a big battle.
Yeah. And I'm just every now and again, Hans, I need to have a bit of a quick peek at our regular timing as well, because of course live races usually is a bit flaky. Sometimes gives us an indication that a track cut's taken place when it actually hasn't. So I have to use the other screen just to verify that Stenberg didn't get a track cut on the last tour, and no, he certainly did not.
So every single lap, bar the first lap for Lion Mitch, has been in the 21s. Now there's been a bit of a variation in there from a low of 121.27 to a maximum of 121.7, but that is the ebb and flow of traffic. Now Luke Rosella, he's just been in the 21s. He'll do a 121.1 and then a 122 afterwards. So not ideal for him, but Stenberg, ultra consistent. He's been, well, when he's not been in traffic, he's been in the 20s, so fantastic. And again, 120.8, so the pace just continues.
Yeah, you will talk about consistent pace as well. I mean, Lion Mitch is consistently holding his own. You look at the last lap times that he's done. That time there was a 21.5. Before that, the last laps he's been doing were 21.3, 21.3, 21.3, 21.6, 21.2, and then a bit further back to another 21.3. So stringing a nice set of consistent laps together here, really boding well for his podium chances in about another 40 laps or so.
Now, Lion Mitch hasn't got a track cut. Luke Rosella's had 3 track cuts so far.
Ooh.
So he's used up some of his bargains there.
He's got another 2 more. So the ruling is that the track cuts have been upped for tonight's race because of the back chicane. So if you get to 5, then your next one you will be touring the lane. So on your 6th track cut, you will have to do a drive-through.
Lewis Wedding's just gotten past Wayne Spencer, and he was having a good showing, and now the pace is just starting to drop off a bit for the Top Gear Racing Volvo.
Yeah,
The sole remaining Top Gear Racing Volvo, due to the departure of Steve Burko to Loose Seam Sport, the main team.
Yeah, that pace has really fallen away for Wayne at the moment, hasn't he? Elsewhere, the only other battle that's really close on track at the moment is the Burko and Will Devenish battle over 4th and 5th. Now, Will's been tucked in behind Burko for the better part of 4 or 5 laps now. These two have been, he's been putting some more work into the rear bumper of that Loose Simsport Falcon than my mother-in-law's had done to her. And here he goes. He just can't find a way past. Look, he just can't get the run off the corner.
Burko is fast. He's fast in all the right places, and he's about 6 tenths of a second down on Will Devenish on the last lap. But like I said, he just gets a good run, and I think his setup is Burko's setups are a lot more stable. You just see Will Devenish, he gets the slide on there. Will Devenish likes a very twitchy car. You need to be on edge at all times with his setups.
Ooh, flying through the chicane. Lil thought there was one, the car was going to go skyward for a minute then. Will just lost some time off of that final chicane as well, so the back straight chicane as well. He wasn't then close enough to have a stab into turn 8, although he's got a relatively good run off of 8, but again, can't do anything with it. When he's got the pace off of another corner to have a stab at Steve Burko, he's not far back, not close enough, to use it. He's way too far back. So have a look at it from this point of view. We'll go on board. How does he set him up out of the final corner? See, Burko's already got a decent run. He's in the draft, but by the time the draft really starts to take effect, he really hasn't got anything to do with it. And in actual fact, you can see Will pulling out of the slipstream. I'm wondering if he's running maybe some brake ducts that are a little bit too closed off, so needs to get a little bit more air to the brakes to make sure they're cool and they don't overheat.
I would hazard a guess that his brake ducts are closed off, and he goes for the full send here.
And Burko leaves him the gap, saw him coming, and that's probably pretty smart because he probably doesn't want to fight him here. If anything, maybe he probably needs to just let Will go if Will gets a decent enough run. Now Will's going to try.
Had a solid exit there, though.
Yeah, now Will's got an even better run here, but he's not going to be able to do anything with it before they get to the chicane unless Burko decides to back out early, which he doesn't. Now, if Will could just stay with him, nailed the throttle at the right part of the chicane, he was going to be right there, but look how much time he lost. One of the things we learnt pretty quickly in Super 2, Hunt, Burko's gone wide, and that's now going to make him vulnerable down at turn 9. And he's gone the defensive option straight away.
Defensive.
And Will might just go right around the outside like McMillan tried to do. Burko should leave him the space, but he's on the wrong side for the next one, and that's the... Oh, I was about to say, is that the passing move done? Yes, it is. Burko doesn't fight it back.
Hopefully Burko didn't get a track cut at the ITM turn. Like I said in the track guide, it's been a bit tightened up for this race. Make sure you don't get your all four wheels over the white line or on the curb. And he didn't get a track cut that time round, so good for Burko.
Good for Burko. Now, the next question will be is how badly has this hurt Will Devonish? Like that lap there was a 122.9, as you could see. What we really want to see now is that he's cleared Burko. Can he start to close the margin down to line Mitch? He's got a lot of time to work with here, which is the important thing, plus pit stops still to work out as well. The one thing Will has to keep in the back of his mind is that if he's got damage that he needs to repair, if it's not hampering the car at all, that he doesn't repair it, because that's going to be unnecessary time lost in the stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And being a long race like this, where you have to make a pit stop or a couple of pit stops if you need to.
Yeah, it's going to be a pair at the bare minimum.
A pair of pit stops. So strategic miscues, very important to not have any strategic dramas. Oh, Mitch, I just saw he just tagged the little tyre wall coming out of ITM turn. So probably giving the steering a bit of a tweak. We'll ride on board with him. Make sure the steering's not looking too bad on board his car. And it looks pretty straight at the moment, so not too bad for Lime Mitch, but he has dropped off the back of Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg as they've gotten faster.
We're just following on board with Burko for a moment then, gave the wall on the outside of turn 14 a little bit of a rub. Getting a couple of comments in the live stream about the joke that I managed to slip in just a few moments ago, and a couple of people saying, like Mike Coulston wants some more mother-in-law jokes. It's not going to be, that's probably the only one for the night, Mike, but I'll maybe try and squeeze another one in somewhere along the line, but we'll see how we go, if I can find opportunity to do it. Oh, Roadie into the fence. Roadie into the fence just as he was letting the traffic through. He was doing the right thing, staying as far wide as he could, but just to slow it down enough to get back onto the racetrack as quickly as he could. Now, just a little bit further ahead of these guys, Rosella's just started to edge a little bit closer to Kurt Stenberg. Oh, there's a car around. That's Turmo. That's around, so that's in a bit of a precarious spot, so he'll have to just try and get himself going when there's nothing around him, and he has managed to get going again, so he's just stayed right to let Lime Mitch through, so he's now got a gap to get going again. Now, where did the bad sector happen for Kurt Stenberg here? Rosella's had a much better Sector 1, Sector 2 than Stenberg, and I'm just waiting to see the Sector 3 time. 20.7 versus the 21.2, and he had a better third sector as well, so he took a full second out of Kurt Stenberg on that last lap. Now, can't see obviously what's happened to Stenny. There's nothing obvious that he's dropped time. He's dropped time
into traffic.
He's dropped time in all three sectors. Maybe it may have been the traffic of Caitlyn Duncan, but I'm not 100% sure. But he dropped time across all three sectors, so he hasn't had a bad moment somewhere. Maybe just had a bad lap overall.
Yeah, it'll probably be running into traffic that's probably done it for him. And I'm going to lean towards that theory, Steve. Because traffic can sometimes, you can come up on traffic at the wrong spot and you're unable to capitalise on it.
Here we go, looking through the windscreen of the number 5 All-Australian Racers Volvo as he pursues the Commodore ahead. He's had that livery on the car for a couple of rounds now. That livery that Stenberg is running, there was another livery that was produced for the Darwin round in the actual real-life supercars. I think it was Nick Percat's Brad Jones livery, Brad Jones Racing livery.
Yeah, the R&J Batteries livery. R&J Batteries coming on board for the rest of the season with Nick Percat and Brad Jones Racing to sponsor the number 8 Commodore.
And the minute I saw it, the minute I saw it, I thought to myself, that looks like Kurt Stenberg's car. I was almost taken aback for 10 seconds looking at it. And I'm like, the colour scheme is almost identical.
Yeah, we did get a bit of a sense of deja vu. New fastest lap of the race, 1:20.495 for Will Devenish, but is it too little too late for him? We're not sure. Still a way to go in this race. But yes, Steve, I agree. The R&J Batteries colour scheme does look quite a bit similar to Trans-Tasman Racing. And maybe they'll have to get some royalties involved.
So say maybe they took a little bit of a look and gone, that's a nice colour scheme. We can work with that. Maybe
well, how many R&J Batteries executives follow V8 Sculpts or ASC?
Oh,
Who knows?
That part of it I don't know. That part of it is uncharted territory. I don't think we should be probably going near. I noticed as well after that.
Oh, here we go. Stenberg wide. That opens the door for Rosella.
Yeah, he made a bad move, and Rosella's going to nip down the inside here or look to do it down at turn number 12. And he
gives him space.
Yeah, did the right thing, left him space.
And they all managed to get out of it.
All right, is it going to be on at turn number 1? That's the next question we want to take a look at. We look from the rear wing.
For Rosella.
Got a nice slipstream going here. Is he going to send it? He's got overlap. He's going to do it down the inside at turn 1 on the beginning of the 19th lap, and he gets the job done. So new race leader. The question is, can he hold on to it? Immediately goes to the defensive. That's his one defensive move now. He cannot move back to take the more natural line for turn 2.
Stenberg just gone around the outside, but he's going to get a poor run unless he can hang tough. Turbo gets out of the way to not impede this battle, and Stenberg lets Rosella through. So move Rosella up to first here, and he's got a lot of pace on board the Volvo.
Great commitment, well
done. And that really opened the door for him. That opened the door for him with Stenberg's mistake.
Oh, Stenny would have got a track cut there for sure.
Stenberg got a track cut there for sure.
Absolutely, for sure.
You stole the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, I was watching it. Just
said the same thing.
He tried to be a little bit too aggressive to try and stay with the Volvo through the chicane and have another nibble down into turn 8, but got it all crossed up at the third part of the chicane. So that would surely have registered a track cut on that particular occasion. I know the track cuts are a little bit more lenient in the race trim, but that was well and truly all 4 wheels off the road.
Luke Rosella, if he can push hard. Oh, they were both sideways coming out of the final corner. Nearly gave that wall a bit of a whack there, but Kurt Stenberg is 3/4 of a second back now.
Pit stop starting. Wayne Spencer in back a shot there in for his first stop. That's at the end of, that's lap 18, I think, for Spencer. He's gone a lap down now.
Now he's going to go rule the third strategy. He's going to do 20-20-20.
Yep, so we're on the 1/3 distance marker now, 59 laps. I mean, if you basically ran it up to 60 laps, you can split it down the middle and go 20-40 and get home. Not a problem. Now just look at the margin that Rosella's just eked out in the last lap or so after getting past Stenberg. He's already out to nearly a second margin. Nicely controlled through the chicane.
Lime Mitch in the pits.
So that's from what was 3rd place, and that's dropped him down the order. Oh, pit lane speeding infringement for Wayne Spencer. He'll do another tour for that one. Now there are some
Spencer in the pits as well.
There are some traffic cones in the lane that were added to give the drivers a bit more of an indication as to where the pit lane speed limit started and stopped, because there wasn't any markings on the road. So he's obviously either came in too hot or he's released a little bit too early.
Notice Lime Mitch came out of the pits just in front of.
Yep. Oh, they're both in. They're both in. So Rosella and Stenberg both in the lane. Now, I expect, looks like Devenish is going to come in as well here. So that will put them all on the same strategy.
No. Oh, no. Termo stays out.
And
Devenish is in. Caitlyn Duncan's in as well.
Yeah, Termo's
and
already.
So too Burko.
Yeah, Termo's already been in. So that's not a problem for him. He had that spin down at the exit of ITM corner and came in the same lap. So that now leaves Brenton Foley as the next man to decide whether he partakes in the pit stop sequence or if he keeps going, and he keeps going. So that will mean that Foley, and there's Wayne Spencer coming in for his drive through. Wedding looks like he's coming in as well. Foley's going again. So Foley will lead a lap. Geez, what a fall this has been from getting off the road at the first corner. And his recovery driven pretty anonymously for the better part of the last 20 laps. But what's he got to do here, Hans, from a strategy point of view to try and sort of salvage something from this race?
He could try one stop it, but that would be a bit brave.
Well, let's run with that theory. I mean, we look at the lap times he's been doing. His last lap around was a 22.4. That's not slow enough to be able to make it one stop.
Yeah, so then he'll have to do 2 stops, and the longer he stays out now, it's probably going to hurt him in terms of tyres, because you want those fresh tyres on to be able to maximise it in clean air, and especially your competition around you has all taken service. So Luke Rosella, Kurt Stenberg, Lime Mitch, Will Devenish, Steve Burko and Lewis Wedding, they've all been in the pits.
And Foley's going to be in this lap, I think, just judging by what we're looking at here. So we'll see if our
Stancliffe in the pits as well.
Yep, so Stancliffe from P9. So he's the last man on the lead lap. And Foley's in. There he is. Here's our race leader, Luke Rosella, just keeping an eye on where Scott Stancliffe is. He's actually just trundling down the pit lane now, so he's going to stay on the lead lap for the moment. He's going to be behind Brendan Ross, who's actually had that damage and had already come in for a stop. Stancliffe out safely and with margin with the full front straightaway. Oh, Ross, I've just seen Brendan Ross has gone around at the first corner as well, so we're back to Brendan Ross. There he is. He's left a nice trail of black lines there off of the first corner. He had just gone through to go past Scott Stancliffe in the lane. There's Stancliffe on the left of screen. And I think just picking up the throttle a bit too early. Yep. Just a little too happy on the loud pedal. And Stancliffe would have been a bit surprised to get a face full of Brendan Ross sitting there. And
the pit exit as well. That would be a bit interesting.
Yeah. Now, Rosella's come out. Actually, in fact, Rosella's increased his margin over Stenberg at the last sector split at 2.1 seconds. And visually, that does look like 2.1 seconds as well. So, some very, very slick pit work from the All Australian Races crew. And the margin out front is, this has really swung a different direction. It was this sort of margin about 10, 15 minutes ago. And big role reversal here.
Yeah, Stenberg, for whatever reason, he's just dropped off the horse a little bit. I'll just have a look at his lap times. And he's just been falling into the 21s. And is the lap that he took pits on, so he took pits on lap 20, 2:12.54. And then the lap after was 1:37.17. We'll just have a look at Luke Rosella. And, sorry, that was Luke Rosella I just read out. Kurt Stenberg, he did a 2:14 on the in-lap. So that's where he lost all that time.
There you go. Might have maybe been held up slightly in the pits with traffic that was also coming in and exiting at the same time. One other battle that's going to probably be interesting to watch in this second phase of the race is going to be the battle for third place and fourth between Lime Mitch and Will Devenish. Now, Will has made some gains over the course of the last sort of 5 or 10 laps since getting past Steve Burko. And if we look, they did come in on the same lap. We take a look at the lap times. It was a 2:14 in lap and a 1:37 out for Lime Mitch, with Will Devenish a 1:40, a 2:04 and a 1:44. Now the reason for that is because they were around the other direction. So you sort of have to add those two together, with making it a 3:48 total pit stop sequence for Will Devenish. And on the other side of the equation, it's going to be a 3:51 for Lime Mitch. So Lime's had a pretty tardy in-lap pit stop and out-lap combined, whereas Will's done a much better job. So again, Will's probably looked at the damage that he would have been carrying from that skirmish with Thomas McMillan and has decided, no, I don't want to repair it because the car's perfectly fine. And he's starting to catch Lime Mitch hand over fist here. So 21.5 for Mitch that time around, 21.1 for Will. So there goes another 0.4 of a second, Hans, like that.
If he keeps going, he'll definitely be past him in the near future. Probably in 10 laps' time.
He's not as fast.
Oh, Stenberg's around. Stenberg's in the fence. He's just come out of turn 4. He's just got it all wrong.
Oh, that's
and that will definitely drop a heap of time to Luke Rosella, maybe even third place.
Yeah, he's safe from Lime Mitch for the minute. You can see Lime back a shot, then you can see Will Devonish a bit further on. To me, I think this is probably just maybe lighting it up a bit too early off of turn 4. Got into turn 3 okay. Brody was, there was a bit of a, I think that might have been Luke Rosella. Oh, he got the fence. That's what he did.
Fence, that's right.
Understeered into the fence and pinball effect.
Easy to do there because the wall does jut out a little bit and he'll have to negotiate roadie again.
Yeah, and it is very, very bumpy as well. That's the problem.
Turn 13. And Brody gets out of the way quick smart there. Good job, Brody.
Yeah,
and Kurt Stenberg, again, he's up against it now, so he needs to get a wriggle on if he wants to catch Rosella. But he's definitely got some time in hand on Lime Mitch.
Well, I was looking at the timing screens just as before that incident happened, Hans, just to see what the lap times were for Lime Mitch and Will Devonish to see how they were going respective to Kurt Stenberg, and they weren't catching him on as per the last lap. Well, they've caught a bucket load of time now.
Speaking of Will Devonish, he's actually 0.6 of a second faster last lap by on Lime Mitch, so that gap comes ever so closer. And Lime, he'll definitely see a CRE electrical Holden ZB Commodore in his mirrors soon.
Yep, Lime Mitch has got a little bit of traffic just ahead of them as well. Here he is, it's Rhodey, and he's already given Rhodey the flash to remind him he's there. Good move by Rhodey to get out of the way there. Didn't lose too much time. Will can now see Lime Mitch for the first time in a little while. Steve Burko's just sort of dropped back into the 122s, just running his own pace at the moment. He's back there in 5th place. And Brenton Foley's found his way back to 6th, which is where he started. But look who he's got for company. He's got a very, very quick youngster in Liam Spencer right on his coattails at the moment. And Liam Spencer was quicker than Foley the last time around to the tune of 0.3 of a second.
So Luke Rosella's managed to get past Scott Stancliffe without so much of a battle. And he'll try and continue to open up that margin. It's around about 8 seconds. Stenberg, we've seen him up against it before and he's pulled some good results out of the hat, especially when it's not been his day. And his last lap round was a 1:20.61 for Rosella in traffic. It's a 1:20.8, so not too bad for Rosella. And the previous lap to that, lap 24, he did get a track cut. So he's on his final warning actually, so he's had 4 track cuts.
He's going to have to be very, very careful, and if that's the case. So where have those track cuts been for Luke Rosella? They've primarily been in the chicanes?
They have been in the chicanes, that's right.
Yeah, so
there is no second sector split for all of those laps.
Let's have a look. So he's just looking through the list here. So lap 5, lap 6, lap 8 and lap 24 were the laps that he has been penalised for according to my screen. Fastest lap, new fastest lap of the race for Stenberg, getting into qualifying territory now. And just waiting to see what the lap 26 for us. So is it, in my book here, Hans, he's got 4. So
yeah,
he's still
4
got
track cuts.
4 track cuts.
So he's still got 1 to work with before he's on his final warning.
Correct. So yeah, 1 more track cut for Luke Rosella, and then he will be on his final warning. So to use up 4 in the first, just over the first third of the race is not a very good sign. Consequently, let's have a look at what some of the other drivers in the top half a dozen spots or so have been doing. So we take a look at Kurt Stenberg. He has got 1 cut that I can see, which is on lap 19. He's currently on lap 27, so I haven't got 1 for that. So just the 1 for Stenberg, so he's been behaving himself. Lime Mitch, surprisingly, has none, so he's the best of all the drivers in the top 3. Will Devonish has got 1, and believe it or not, that 1 for Will came in sector 1, so that's before the chicanes, so that's a bit of a weird one. Probably took a bit too much maybe at turn 1 or got his angle wrong or something there. And then the other man in the top 5, Steve Burko, has none.
Good to see the Super 2 guys up there. They're respecting track limits. And it was definitely a talking point in the Super 2 race then. It will be a talking point after this round, because this track is ultra tight on track limits.
It certainly is. It's been a bit of work from Lewis Wedding and myself to get the track limits just right. A lot of trial and error with making sure we had wheels inside the curbs at all times, and very, very difficult to predict. As Will Devonish now decides now's the time to try and have a little bit of a go at turn 2 with Lime Mitch. He'll be on the wrong side for 3, so Lime will get some nice drive out of the sweeper here at turn 4, and drives it as straight as he can off that corner, gets some purchase, and does very, very nicely there to just get another car length on Will. They scoot through the chicane, and he's now 100% safe for turn 8. But this margin has gone very, very quickly, and we did see that it took about a half a dozen laps or so for Will Devonish to finally make his way past Steve Burko. But now this could be another challenge. He wouldn't have battled Lime Mitch very much head-to-head for position through Supercars and other races. I think the only other race we've seen in battle head-to-head for positions have been GT3 and perhaps maybe 1 or 2 ATCC races. But this is a whole new ball game for Will. It's not someone who's probably used to racing a hell of a lot.
And he moves to the inside, and he's going to make the dive, and he gets there. Lime Mitch just gives him room. Probably realises at this stage in the race, Will's just a little bit faster, or Lime just gets the ball there slightly.
Yeah, sidestepped the argument pretty well there at turn 1. As I always say, this is the opportunity to match yourself against a fast guy. If you can stay with them, because Will's definitely got some pace on board here. Now we really want to see how much time he can really claw back to Kurt Stenberg. It's 9 seconds the margin, just going off your graphic on the side of screen there. But Stenberg has been setting some very, very respectable times, and quite often it's been a lot quicker than Will as well. Just want to go back and have a look at this battle here, because again, Brenton Foley's got his hands full with Liam Spencer, who Liam had a bit of a look at out of turn 1 on the run to turn 2, but he was on the wrong side, so yet another battle starting to unfold. The old seasoned bull versus the new kid on the block. And the new kid on the block is making a really good fist of this, Hans.
Again, another Super 2 runner. Super 2 being a bit of a breeding ground for these guys. We've seen a number of graduates, we could say. The Super 2 series isn't over. Oh, Liam must have got the wall there, because we just saw the car pitch sideways.
Yep, you certainly did
Just
get the wall.
lost a bit of ground. Lost a bit of ground on Foley there, but seeing a number of Super 2 runners up in the top 10. Got Spencer, Scott Stancliffe,
Burko
Liam
and Lime
Spencer,
Mitch, yeah.
Burko and Lime Mitch. So good to see. And again, a bit of experience on the track always helps.
Not only that too, the Super 2 series was designed to try and encourage a number of drivers to develop their skills and move up into the main game, and good to see that Wayne and Liam have done that. Wayne's still running around in Super 2. Steve Burko's done the same. Lime Mitch as well. We'd like to see a lot more of our quick Kiwis trying to get into Supercars. Unfortunately, the timing doesn't suit a number of them, but for next year we might be looking at moving to a different night to see if we can accommodate some more of our cousins and bros from across the ditch. We'd definitely love to see some really full fields, similar fields to what we're seeing in Super 2 on Friday nights, which is sadly coming to an end in 2 weeks' time. Second to last round tomorrow night from Sandown International Motor Raceway over on Lewis Wedding's Loose 89 channel. That'll be broadcast on. And then the Bend event has been scrapped, and there will be another track for the final round. That was just due to the timing glitches we had with GT3. We will be looking to see another track there. This Foley's very wide at turn 9, but gets it sideways on the run down to turn 11.
Just noticed something, Steve.
Go on.
Mitch has lost his he's lost his bonnet.
He has. What on earth has gone on here?
I did spot it.
He's had a bad lap. Last lap alone, it was on the middle sector on the last lap. I'll have to see if I can go back and try and find what happened to him, because it was a lap or so ago.
He's done a Stenberg. Turn 4, he's just hit the fence.
Yeah, he's actually got the
cuts
fence a
out.
lot worse. It was, yeah, right, it was at turn 4.
And he's nosed into it. So that was his bonnet that was lying on the ground there.
Yep, you're right.
And I just saw that at the back of shot, and I'm like, we'll have a look at Lime Mitch, and he's running around with no bonnet now.
Wonderful 3D modelling there, showing all the innards of underneath. We're going to get. I wonder if we go on board, will we get the? Oh no, that's not a good look. And no, we can't see through the front firewall, so that's a little bit of a different. But we can see the roll cage, and that's really incentivised Steve Burko now. Lime Mitch is going to have some damage, and he was very, very close to understeering into the fence there at turn 12. Burko will be hungry now for P4, and I think he's going to have a stab here into turn number 1. These two are teammates in Super 2, don't forget. There's a smoke show going on at turn 1, or what's going on at turn 1? Or what was going on at turn 1 before these guys got there?
Just trying to have a look.
Looking through to see if it might have been maybe Will Devonish or somebody just out braking themselves or firing it up.
He did lock a brake, but nothing I can spot so far.
No, it wasn't that bad. Something else must have gone on there at turn 1. Oh, Burko got the fence! Burko got the fence the same way Lime Mitch did, but he managed to hang on to it. Great car control there. Lime Mitch is ahead at the chicane, so Burko has to yield.
They've both got a bit of steering damage, actually, so they're both a bit left-hand down. So now they've got something similar for both of them. Will Devonish as well has a little bit of left-hand down. I think every car at the end of this race is going to be left-hand down.
Oh, if there's no straight cars left on the in the grid when they all finish, I'll be beside myself.
Falling into a bit of a lull here. Not really much happening. Everyone's spread out.
Now the next
And
thing...
it wasn't Spencer. He's just coming under attack from cars about to lap him. Liam Spencer and Brent Foley lets them through. Probably giving his son a cheer on to get past Foley.
Yep, be trying to encourage him. They'll be sitting next to each other in the family household with the sim rigs, side by side, no doubt. Yeah, just sort of falling into a bit of a lull here while we wait for the next sort of pit stops to come through. The only real battles on track are the Burko Lime Mitch battle and the Brent Foley Liam Spencer battle. They're the ones we've been sort of focusing in on, the one that's just ahead of Wayne Spencer here. Got a bird's eye view of the best seat in the house. I think Liam's just sort of backed off a little bit here, maybe just to prepare himself for another crack at Brent Foley at some point in the circuit. Rosella's been consistently doing some good times out in front. He's been consistently in the high 20s for a little while now. Kurt Stenberg, last lap round was a 21.4. Devonish was a 21.0. So Will is taking a little bit of time here and there, but not in huge clumps. The gap is coming down. Race control has now issued a penalty for Rhodey. Now, what's he done there? I think this might be a track violation. I'm just looking to see. Yeah, it's going to be track cuts for sure. He's out on circuit. And I reckon he's done that at turn 1.
No, he's done it at turn 2.
2? So what, he got 2?
For whatever reason, he's just driven over the blue paint there. So he just got it all wrong.
Turn 2 is a bit of a tricky turn as well because it's got that signage on the inside and then the curb, and it can be a little bit difficult to spot.
He's just turned in way too early.
Yeah.
So, bit of a mistake there for Rhodey. Fortunately, no damage for him.
Meanwhile,
and he'll just have to take a tour of the lane.
Meanwhile, back up front, Steve Burko has managed to get the pass done on Lime Mitch. It was on the previous lap as well. Oh, and Rhodey's had another moment. Sorry, I've just a step aside here, Hans. He's gone off at one of the runoff areas. He's gone off the runoff area down at turn 12. And I think that's probably just an out-braking manoeuvre. I was just waiting to see if he was coming across to serve his drive-through penalty. And he is serving a drive-through penalty right now. But here it is at ITM corner, a little bit wide of the ideal line. He had Brendan Ross behind him, so probably had that in mind to let him through. Yeah, just on the brakes too late. And nice flick spin. And that's another thing the drivers had been warned about in the driver's briefing, was to ensure that you do a flick spin to get back onto the circuit where possible. And once you have done your flick spin, you'll be able to rejoin safely, not to do a reverse entry onto the circuit.
He'll be happy that the flick spin got onto the stream.
No, he certainly will be.
Luke Rosella, he's just coming up on the back of Brennan Ross. And that gap has ballooned out to 13 seconds now for Rosella over Stenberg. So very impressive effort here from Rosella.
Yeah, this is extremely impressive. The real question
We've
is,
seen
he's got this margin now, Hans, and he's got some luxury of being able to look after his car through the chicane a little bit nicer as well too, because he's got those 4 track cuts. He needs to be, right on it now. He hasn't picked up any for a while. The last one was back on lap 24, now on lap 35, so another 5 laps from now, and we'll be looking at pit stop sequences.
Yeah, Luke Rosella, he's proven himself to be a race winner in the Porsche Cup Series. Long Beach, he took a race victory.
Yep, that's his first victory in Automobilista Australia as well. And I think that was in the reverse grid race as well. And
That's right.
That was very, very nicely done. Porsche Cup next Tuesday night as well for all you Porsche Cup drivers out there. Just having a look at the track cut.
Atlanta.
Yeah, from Road Atlanta, correct. Just having a look at the track cut counts as well. Stenberg's picked up another
Ross
one.
is in the fence.
Oh, he is too.
Ross
He's
is in the fence, turn 4.
He's back there. We did see him just on the back of shot behind Rosella. I was just having a quick look to see who'd been naughty on the track cut count, and Stenberg had picked up another one, probably same sort of thing that Rhodey had done down at turn 2, because he didn't get a lap time at all for lap 33. Here's Brennan Ross's moment. Oh, understeered well wide. Tried to pick up throttle, got a bit of a swapper on, and did a pirouette into the fence. So that car has definitely seen better days for this round, I think. I think he'd just be happy to make it home, Hans.
Yeah, Bokey says, "Here you go, Rossi. Have my car." Oh, thanks, Bokey. This is how I'll treat it.
That's like the remember the Jensen Button and Fernando Alonso
Yes.
in Monaco. I'm going to pee in your seat.
I'm going to pee in your seat. No, please don't.
Yeah, and this is like that all over again, isn't it? You give me a car, I'll do something to it that you don't want me to do, and planting it in the fence, I think, is about as a don't do it statement as you can imagine.
Don't put a scratch on it.
No, don't put a scratch on it.
It's his for the rest of the season, so whatever he does, he'll foot the bill for it. Or it comes out of the driver's wages.
Now,
But speaking of the Porsche Cup Series, Luke Rosella, he was running quite well in the first race until yours truly in the commentary box managed to send it into the fence, 4-wheel slide into turn 1, and Luke Rosella was about 0.2 of a second behind me, and he just slammed into me. Unfortunately, nowhere to go. So that really ruined his run in that race. But in the reverse grid race, he did come good. He had pace at the right time. And again, he's showing himself he's having pace at the right time right now.
he sure is. This battle continuing on. Liam Spencer had actually got the job done on Brenton Foley on the previous lap as well, and he'd held it for the better part of the lap, but now Foley's having another go at him down here into turn 2. Commands a bit of space. That's pretty respectful driving from the pair of them. Foley left him quite a lot of room there as Liam rubs the fence. And, oh, this is dicey into turn 4. Great driving between the two. We've got to be careful. Now comes the moment. Who's going to be ahead at the chicane? This is where it's a game of chicken. And Foley lets him go through. Wise heads prevailed.
There, very wise. But Spencer, he's definitely coming on strong at this point in the race compared to Foley. And Foley, it's just been far from ideal from him. He got a ripper start, but unfortunately, a bit of contact. 3 into 1 doesn't go.
Nope.
And unfortunately, spilt at turn 1.
And as I said a bit earlier, I think that'll probably be reviewed post-race, that particular race start, because there was I don't think there was a gap wide enough there to take the Pleb Sim Sport VB Commodore into turn 1, and it's resulted in, I think it looked like he cannoned off of, I think it may have been Steve Burko, and then into Brenton Foley, which sent Foley wide.
So Lime Mitch was on, here we go, something more immediate right now. Brenton Foley.
Big lock up from Foley, and he's going to lose position to Lewis Wedding as well. So Wedding, I was about to say, hadn't really been catching Spencer and Foley at all, and Wayne Spencer goes through as well, but he's a lap down, but he's now coughed up. Oh, nice slide from Lewis as we're talking about him. He's now coughed up P7 to Lewis Wedding too.
Good presence of mind from Liam Spencer. He just opened up the steering at the critical moment and avoided what could have been a nasty accident.
Yeah, certainly.
They all get to continue on, no damage. Bit of a flick spin on the stream for Foley as well, which is always nice.
Yep.
If you spin, at least you get the flick spin on there.
Keeping an eye on proceedings at the moment. Now, I think Stenberg may have had a rough lap somewhere in amongst all of this, because Devonish has got the gap down to 6.5 seconds, although Stenberg has got some traffic at the moment in the form of Brendan Ross. And he held him up for a little bit there, and he had a pretty sluggish first sector at 29.8 compared to Rosella's 29.4 and Will's 29.5. So there goes 0.3 of a second in one direction and 0.4 in another. Don't count Will out for a bit of a late charge here. If he can get his skates on and if things go well for him, he may be on the back of Stenberg toward the end of the race, but it's going to take something, a mega effort for it to happen. Although if Stenberg keeps rubbing the walls like that on the exit of turn 12, he might end up having another moment like he did in the first stint. And Stenberg's in. So Stenberg comes in, Rosella keeps going, and Will Devonish is going to keep going as well.
Probably looking for the undercut here, as he doesn't have the track position advantage.
I actually think he's looking from the opposite direction. He's looking at maintaining track position. He's probably too far behind. Oh, there's another penalty for Roddy now. Is that another track violation? I think it probably is. As we cycle through, we look at Kurt Stenberg in the stop. Yes, it is a track violation for Roddy. That'll be through the back chicane.
Clicked onto Kurt Stenberg's Twitch stream and he just made mention of trying to get the undercut, so that's definitely his strategy.
Okay.
Has a quick in the pit stop. And he'll be off and running once again. Full tank of fuel, 4 tyres on board, and he's off and running now. So there we go.
It's interesting as
Good
well,
job.
Hans, because the thing about Kurt Stenberg is we've often remarked about he likes the longer format races. So the ones that we've had so far on the calendar have both been street circuits. Adelaide 250 and the other one being the Townsville 200 or the North Queensland 200. He won both of those, and he won them both convincingly, except for the Townsville one, because if it hadn't have been, he was 45 seconds, he would have won the race by 3/4 of a lap if it wasn't for the safety car.
Yeah, absolutely. And but he's up against it now, so he has to think outside the box a little bit, Stenny. And his strategy has been pretty good this season so far, so we wouldn't put it past him to perhaps, with the undercut, make it work for him.
Burko coming in, and that means Wedding and Foley and Kurt Stenberg. It's going to be interested to see where he comes out in all of this. Luke Rosella, the race leader, has come into the pits, so that puts Will Devonish into the lead of the race. So Will's going a bit longer here than he normally would. Now Rosella's on the move in the pit lane. He's about halfway down the lane at the minute, where Stenny's only just coming up to turn 12. So I think this margin is probably going to stay somewhere around where it is. It might decrease slightly. We won't really get a true representation of that until we get to the first sector split, and Rosella's now exiting the pits, has done so safely, and is around turn 1. So the distance visually on track appears to be about the same. But we'll get a readout on the sector differentials very, very shortly.
So Luke Rosella, he's just struggling on cold tyres there. He had a bit of a lock brake into turn 2, so that's the hairpin. So hopefully there's no dramas in his pit stop.
Yeah, he's just about to enter the back chicane now, so right now. So instead he's just coming around turn 4. So you've got to remember too, Rosella has got Wedding and Foley in between them, so that is for position. Those two are yet to stop. So the difference between Rosella and man in third place Wedding is 5 seconds. So if you look a bit further down, you can see that it's nearly 9. So it's slightly less than what it was. So Stenberg has made a small gain on the outlap by pushing hard. But the thing that Stenberg has up his sleeve here is he's got track violations to burn. He's got 2 more of them, 3 more compared to Rosella's 1 before they both end up on a final warning.
Devonish, incidentally, is just coming to the pits, so that will cycle through and have Luke Rosella
and Foley
resume
and Wedding
the
as
race.
well. So the top, all the guys that were in the lane are now in for their stops, or that were on the road still are in for their stops. Now here's Will. You'll see Kirk going through there. He's going to have some lap traffic. Oh, there's another penalty for Ruddy for another track violation. And just looking to see where he is on the circuit.
Oh, Caitlyn Duncan's around at the exit of pit lane.
He's done the same thing, or a similar thing to Rossi. That's a bit of a weird one. There he is in the back of shot.
Luckily, he didn't block the exit there, so he's able to get going.
There he goes, and safely back out to circuit. Did he do that all on his own, Hans?
He did it all on his own.
All right, so here he is in behind Will Devonish, trundling at this pedestrian 40 km/h speed limit. Let's just ride on board here and have a little bit of a listen. Oh, he got the fence. That's what he did. He didn't gas it up all on his own. He actually clouded the fence on the inside. That is, to quote Rex Hunt, Scheisenhausen.
Very iconic quote there.
The cool thing is he's actually on 3AW now doing his footy tips with Tom Elliott whenever the rounds start now. So it's always good to hear Rexy's voice. He was one of the commentators I used to listen to a lot growing up. And just
Channel 7.
I remember that when we had the furniture removals business, we actually moved his house out to, he was down Black Rock and moved out there, and I actually got a beanie out of it as well with his very famous quotation written across the front of it.
Which quotation was
It's
it?
the yibbida yibbida.
Yibbity yibbida. Yeah. What did he used to call Ablet? Yablet.
Yablet.
Yablet. There were some very iconic nicknames there back in the old days of AFL, Channel 7.
Yeah, plenty of
But
footballers getting
Kurt
all
Stenberg,
sorts
he
of
just
weird
ran
names.
across the blue paint. Sorry, Kurt Stenberg's just run across the blue paint at turn 2 once again.
So did he do
So,
a similar thing to what
there.
Rhodey did he?
Yep, he's done a similar thing. He's probably unsighted. That corner is a bit blind on the way in.
Well, here we go. Let's have a
So
look at it
easy
from
to
the
do.
roof, from the roof cam. We'll see how bad this is. And oh, that's marginal. Yeah, he's taken a lot of it there, but you're right. It's a bit difficult to see. Now the question is, did he get a track cut for that?
Probably won't know until the end of the lap if he's gotten a track cut.
So we'll be actually able to go into on the second screen. We'll be able to have a quick look at his lap times and see if it was deleted. And in fact, it wasn't. So he just got away with that one. So that was probably borderline. And he registers a 120.617. And that's in comparison to Rosella's 120.754. So that's only a tenth and a little bit of a difference. That's not a hell of a lot.
Just having a look at Lime Mitch. He's looking a bit second-hand, the Mustang. Missing a bonnet and probably a few other bits as well. But he's still chugging along, and he's pretty solidly in 5th at the moment.
He's got to be careful here, though, too, that he doesn't drop too much time to Lewis Wedding and behind them Liam Spencer and Brenton Foley, because all those guys have stopped. And Lime Mitch has as well, but if there's any shred of damage that Lime Mitch is having to cope with, he's got to be really careful that he doesn't, lose a time hand over fist. His last lap, a 21.8, and they're now 22.1.
Scott Stancliffe DNF.
Scott Stancliffe,
Lap
saw him in the lane
41.
before. Look at Wedding's time. Wedding took 0.6 of a second out of Lime Mitch on that lap alone. And he's dragging Liam Spencer and Brenton Foley along with him, who are trying to catch him as well. So these guys are going to be on Lime Mitch, I think, before the end of the race. And
Yeah,
it's
Lime Mitch is really struggling for pace at the moment. I just think the car is nowhere near as ideal as he would like it, especially having clouded the wall a few times and probably taken on a fair bit of steering damage, just judging by the steering wheel. But he has only gotten 3 track cuts so far, so he's not looking too bad in that metric. I'll just have a look if Burko has had a couple of track cuts. And he's had no track cuts, Burko. So that is really impressive from Burko. Really consistent run there. And he's just showing what a class driver he is.
Yeah, he's one of the ones that's been probably the best behaved out of all of them. Everybody else has racked up at least 1, if not 2. I think Rosella is still the man who has the most amount of track cuts on the night. And if we have a look at the last count for him, it was 4, and it's actually now 5. So he is officially on his last warning. He got them, so he's got them. He got them on lap 5, 6. Then he got one on 8, 24, and 35. So not long before becoming to the pit. So he's really got to be careful here that he doesn't go too far out over the curbs. Stenberg's going to start to apply the blowtorch as he is right now, setting some fastest laps, trying to take some margin out, down to 7.6 seconds. So I think that the strategy from Stenberg now is to start really coming at Luke Rosella over the next 13 or 14 laps. Try and put the pressure on, that perceived pressure on, that he's catching him, and try and force a mistake.
And what Luke needs to do, he just needs to drive as consistently as possible and leave a bit of margin for error on the back straight chicane. And also just needs to drive his own race, not so much worry about if Stenberg's catching him or not, because he's not got the opportunity to push too hard. So if Stenberg realises that pushing him will force him into a mistake, he'll do it. He's definitely doing it now. But Rosella, he just needs to fend off by almost not fending off, it seems.
Yeah, he needs to sort of just pick the parts of the track where he is strong. Like, if he feels comfortable enough on the back straight, taking the chicane the way that it is, to keep doing it, but he's got such a fine margin for error. The real easy way to handle the chicane is just to ease off the throttle before you get into it and just line the car up, ride the curbs nicely, and then just punch the throttle to the firewall on the exit and just try and pick up your speed again. It might be worth dropping the 0.2 of a second or something in that particular part of the lap, but then you'll get your gain a lot further out the other side if you're strong in all the other sectors. And even at 0.2 of a second per lap, even if worst it's 0.3 of a second per lap, it's not going to be enough to catch him by the checkered flag.
No, absolutely not. He just needs to keep consistent, and he just needs to keep driving within the white lines. I'm just riding on board with him now, and you just hear him lift off. Oh, he just managed to hit the right side fence.
Yeah, he had a bit of a moment there.
So there is a bit of an art form to it. You do lift off just before you make the jolt towards the right. It is a bit of an art form, this. It's quite hard to explain.
You're right, it is a bit of a hard sort of thing to explain. I mean, from us sitting in the driving position, it's a bit, I guess it becomes more naturally when you understand, yes, it's, you know, you don't want to keep your foot to the floor from the understeer point of view. You don't want to completely come off the throttle from, you know, unsettling the car kind of thing. You've just got to learn the right spot just to take a little bit of distance out of the accelerator pedal back in the wrong direction, just to slow the car up a touch, but just enough so it doesn't upset the car going into that part of the course.
It's almost keeping the platform flat, so to speak, not trying to pitch the weight towards the nose or pitch the weight towards the rear. Try not to make the car squat, just keep the car flat, and it will make the car handle very neutrally. So basically, you do get about, you know, 75, 50% throttle, and that will help the car be very stable through that corner, or through those corners.
Yeah, being a street circuit as well, you know, a lot of these drivers will have a lot of the damper controls and suspension set up to ride some of these bumps, especially around the back part of the course. And as you can see, Stenberg there takes it on the curb on the inside and also on the outside. So you want that, you know, bump and rebound so the suspension can compress and extend and, you know, pick up the road surface nice and quickly, but you don't want it to bottom the car out. You also don't want the car to dive under brakes as well, and by diving it means where the whole car sort of, you know, tips forward with the weight distribution and all of the you know, forward and backward motion basically going all the way to the front of the car. You don't want that to happen, especially going into the chicane. It's not you don't want to be hammering the brakes going into the chicane. You pretty much just want to feather the throttle so the car just slows down gradually without that huge lump of weight transfer.
New fastest lap of the race, 1:20.1 from Will Devonish. So he's got some pace coming on strong now.
He really has. And if we look at what the last laps around were, so the 1:20.1 back to Kurt Stenberg's 20.5 as well. So that's a 4/10 swing the other way. And looking at the margins there at the moment, it's only 4.2 seconds. So Will be able to see him, so he'll have the carrot, but he's fast running out of laps.
Luke Rosell, he just needs to hold on to it, and he's got a very solid margin at the moment. But anything can happen.
It certainly can.
It usually does in this series, it seems, to use a Murray Walkerism.
Just coming back to have a look
this year, it's definitely shown that, as we've seen Kurt Stenberg come into trouble, Will Devnish come into trouble, and hopefully not for Luke Rosella.
No,
but anything can happen.
Every
Again,
time it flashes up, I keep worried that it's actually Rosella that's got the penalty, but no, it's Rhodey again getting another track violation. We've just gone back to take a look at Lion Mitch just to see how he's going, trying to fend off Lewis Wedding. So he's doing pretty well here. Liam Spencer's dropped out of this battle. I'm just trying to work out what's happened to him. He's had a really bad lap somewhere, and just our live races is being a little bit of a burden for us at the moment, just to tell us what's going on. So if we grab the other machine just to see what happened to Liam Spencer, he has had a couple of scruffy laps. There was a 146 in there. That's a pit stop in lap, and he's just been losing touch just by the look of it. He's been doing mid to high 22s, where the other drivers have sort of picked up the game a bit. So he's just lost touch in general overall.
It's probably, as the tyres come off, probably not used to running a longer race distance like this. Probably 20 laps is as far as you would want to go on these tyres. They'd be looking very, very ordinary at the end of the tyre stint.
Well, back in the day, I think this was actually a sprint event, if memory serves me correctly. They ran a couple of races across the weekend back when the Supercars visited here in real life.
That's correct, yeah. So it was a sprint format race. Again, another penalty for Rhodey.
Are we keeping score at home, ladies and gents? I think we're up to 5 or 6 now here.
Could we see the breaking of the Glenn Miles record, 12?
Oh, please. I don't think that's a record anybody wants to have, to be perfectly honest with you. Now, Lion Mitch has just made a mistake off of turn 2, and now is vulnerable to Lewis Wedding, who's just been plodding along. And we did say they were going to get onto the back of him before the end of the race, and well, that time has come for Lion Mitch. It's time to fight, and fight for all you've got for the remaining 10 or 9.5 laps.
Just on the topic of Glenn Miles, he hasn't been that well lately. Has had to pull out of a couple of races. So shout out to Glenn. Hope you get well soon, mate, and hopefully we can see you racing soon.
Yeah, he's in the live chat. I think earlier I saw a few comments from him as well that he's wishing all the boys good luck. He did miss the event for Super 2 for GT3s on Tuesday night. And no, only a couple of guys have been in the wars. Injuries. Trips to hospital for a few of them as well. Rhodey was in hospital recently and still on the mend. And yeah, everybody's sort of been in the wars a bit. It's surprising with all the COVID pandemic around us that other things are sort of happening to a lot of the guys that are not sort of COVID related, which is good. It's good that they're not attracting the virus, but it's not good that they're all sort of coming with all sorts of other manner of injuries. Now here's the race lead. Oh, there's an engine blow up for Lion Mitch. Big smoke from the Monster Energy Mustang, and it is over and out.
I just saw Lewis Wedding. He managed to get the slide on because of there must have been oil down. Does it simulate that? Who knows?
I don't think it does. I think he probably just got distracted by what was going on. Let's just go and have a look at that from the Lewis Wedding point of view. He would have got a face full of flame on the run down here, and this will just be coming down either coming down too many gears or as a penalty for Brent Foley. Yeah, he's in the braking zone. He just came down, I think, maybe too many gears too quickly. Wedding just sort of was a bit taken aback by what was going on.
He's like the rears.
Yeah, probably didn't realise.
Like at the rears.
Probably didn't realise what was going on, thinking maybe Lion Mitch was not going to get off the road in time and was just a bit worried about running into the back of him and having some damage. We just saw a penalty come up as well for Brenton Foley, who's in behind Lewis Wedding here. So that means Foley will cede position to Liam Spencer, will come out P7 because Lion Mitch is out and Brendan Ross is still 2 laps down on the leaders. So he will slot in there when he takes that penalty. Now Luke Rosella is just starting to come up to lap these guys as well. So he's lapped everybody in the field up to P7. with Foley and Wedding to be the next couple. That'll leave just Stenberg, Devonish and Burko on the lead lap. The margin that he has over Stenberg is stabilised now, Hans.
It stabilised around the 7.25 seconds sort of area. But Luke Rosella, it can all go wrong for him if he's not careful. Only 7 laps to go, including this one. And he needs to be ultra careful. He's just coming up to lap Bretton Foley. We'll have to make a tour of the pit lane.
Yeah, I don't think he really needs to do anything rash here, Luke Rosella. Just bide his time, just wait for Foley to come in and just slip past when he does. He really doesn't need to be applying the blowtorch to the cars ahead. Just needs to drive his own race.
Just needs to manage the gap at this stage.
Correct. Yellow flag down here at the at turn 2 or 12, and that's who's that off the road? Is that Turmo? Yep. Turmo rejoins, so that's one car he doesn't, that race leader doesn't have to contend with. And Foley peeling off. Yes, there he goes. So not an issue there. Case in point. And I don't think Rosella, he did a 21.0 that time around, and Stenberg behind has done a 21.1. So in actual fact, he's still gained a 1/10 of a second, did Luke Rosella. So even just by sitting back there, even he realises, I think, as long as he doesn't do anything rash, he's got this one in hand. And Devonish has now got the margin down to about 4.2 seconds, but it hasn't really come down much more than that.
Now look at this. Lewis Wedding, he's about to go a lap down on Luke Rosella. And Lewis Wedding, he was definitely one of the pace setters in the early days of the AMSL Supercars. Just shows how, just shows how little seat time he gets in these cars these days, Lewis, but also shows how much the competition has progressed since the early days of AMSLs.
That's right. That's one of the things that I think a lot of people have probably not seen very much of over the course of the last 2.5 years of Automobilista Australia. There were a lot of guys that came into AMSLs that were pretty green. Look, Will Devonish was actually one of them. He was one of the guys that I was fighting tooth and nail with in Porsche Cup on several occasions back in late 2018, early 2019. And he's taken his driving to another level over the last sort of 10 months or so. Got a lot of new gear, quite a lot of expensive gear actually, and has put in an awful amount of seat time and practice time, not just for his own practice, but also
hundreds of laps in practice.
Hundreds of laps, but also bringing the CRE guys up to speed as well. So that's Turmo, that's Cam Rutledge, that's Liam Spencer as well. You know, even people like Cam Rutledge have improved their game enormously from last year to this year, but a lot of other guys in the field coming in, like Kurt Stenberg and drivers like that, they've sort of just brought that new bar to another level. And so the gains that those guys have made over the course of the last 6 or 7 months, like Cam Rutledge, they're really not being truly reflected because some of the guys that have come into the series are just so much faster by nature anyway. So they don't get enough credit for how much time and effort they've actually put into making themselves better.
Oh, big bit overshadowed. Oh, Luke Rosella's run a bit wide.
That's about the only real mistake I think. Yeah, keep it on the black stuff. That's about the only real mistake I think we've seen him make. Another penalty for Rody.
Another penalty.
Oh, Stenberg did the same thing as Luke Rosella. Very nearly got the fence on the run out of turn 9 as well. So these guys are probably just getting to the bank of the last bit of their tyre life, and they've just got to settle down for a little bit here.
Understeer City.
Understeer City it is indeed.
Population seems to be everyone.
Mm.
But 4 laps to go. Or rather 3 laps to go, including this one.
Yep. There pretty much isn't any real battles on track at the moment. The only real interesting one is just to see how Will Devonish is going about closing any margin that remains down to Kurt Stenberg. But the gap is still sort of hovering around the high 3.8 second mark. You can see him. And that part's not in the equation. He'll just be praying for a mistake. Good situational awareness from Liam Spencer. Just gets out of the way. Lets the elder statesman and teammate through. There's actually 3.1 now. The margin's down to 3.1, but lap 56 of 59, not very much to go. And he'll be relying on a mistake from the TTR Commodore, Will Devonish. In terms of the point situation, Hans, this is a bit of a unusual one for Will, because he keeps racking up a lot of these finishes that are one position behind Stenberg. Very, very rarely has he actually finished in front. If we take a look on the point standings as to the race results so far to date, the only ones that he's finished ahead of Kurt Stenberg was, where are we here? There was one win, the two wins at Calder, which were the win compared to Stenberg's 4th and a win compared to Stenberg's 11th. Every other race he's finished behind either 2nd, or in the worst cases he's had 7th at Barbagallo, which we had some penalties from, and Hidden Valley when he was 6th. So he's just staying in touch, but this is round 9, and there's only 14 rounds. We're short one round, remember, because we took Bathurst out for the 500. So only 5 more rounds exist after this, and he's really got to start finishing ahead of him a lot more regularly than he is right now.
Yeah, absolutely right there, Steve. He's up against it now. We're getting to the business end of the season, and he really needs to start pulling out some good finishes, good results, and try and get ahead of Stenberg whenever he can. And Stenberg, he's got to manage that gap towards the end of the season, but he's definitely got the upper hand right now, Stenberg.
Yeah, he does. On track right now, he certainly does have the upper advantage. There's the old joke that I think has been put out a few times at a few different weddings. I know that it was at my wedding. It was at my brother's wedding as well. The old joke of getting the bride to put her hands out, and then, or getting put up to one hand out, and then the groom puts his hand on top, and then the best man says, "Now, please take a photo of what you're seeing now, because this is the only time that the groom will have the upper hand in this marriage."
I was thinking maybe always the bridesmaid, never the bride, but that's just one better.
Yeah, my best man pulled that on me at my wedding, and then I think 3 years later, the best man at my brother's wedding pulled the same trick.
Now we're getting to final couple of laps.
No
Another
one for
drive-through penalty for Rhodey.
All right, I think that's now 8 for Rhodey, sadly. Rosella really rolling out of the throttle hard. You could hear it on our broadcast pictures there.
You're just coasting through there.
Yeah, literally coasting through there right now.
What a performance from Luke Rosella so far. He's just had the pace where it mattered.
He certainly has.
Made as few mistakes as he could, barring the last lap now. Fingers crossed.
Our friend...
he's really come on strong, hasn't he?
He certainly has. Our friend NZ Snipes in the chat just reminding us that it's Rodney, not Rhodey, but that's for anyone who doesn't know what that's all about. There's another bit of that still to pan out. So Rosella starts the final lap. Now this battle's not over. Will Devenish has caught time on Stenberg, hand over fist. Something has happened to Kurt. I'm not sure if he's managing an issue here or something, but this could really be on in the last lap.
Devenish's last lap by was 1:20.24.
It was at 1.2 seconds faster. What on earth is going on here? So we're going to be keeping an eye on this with interest. We'll come back to the race leader hopefully taking his first victory shortly, but Will is on a charge here. Look at that, full-on slide out of turn 2. He is wringing the neck of this Commodore for all that it's worth. Where's he going to have a go at Stenny if he can get it done?
And will Stenberg go defensive, considering his lead in the championship?
Oh, they'll use the track cuts up. They both use the track cuts up at turn 5, 6 and 7 right there, right then. The race
like
leader...
real life Supercars, isn't it?
Yep, if you got them, use them up.
But look at this, Luke Rosella coming through the final couple of corners now, up to turn number 11 and turn 12.
Going to get the job
Last
done.
right-hander on the track. And turn 13, Luke Rosella, he used up his track cuts early, but he's been centimetre perfect in the last part of the race. Fantastic.
What a wonderful win for Luke Rosella. First in Supercars and his second in 2 weeks. Great job by the AAR number 5. Stenny's just going to hang on here. Will wasn't close enough to have a stab. I reckon another lap or two he would have been passed in a heartbeat. So Stenberg finishes second. Rosella the winner. Devenish is third. Burko is still a mile behind, but he is under no immediate threat. He is going to get 4th place. That, I believe, is a season best finish for Steve Burko, and a job well done. And we're just doing the sums over here for everybody as they cross the line, just to see where everybody sits in the point standings, so we can give you an update at the conclusion of the night. So a 4th for Burko.
Burko will definitely be happy with that. Great drive.
He sure will. Wedding's going to get 5th. He was the first man home. That was a lap down. Liam Spencer, I think this is probably his best result of the season. Prior to that, I've got a 7th on my board for him. A couple of 7ths, actually. So 6th place finish for Liam Spencer is very, very handy. The donuts are already starting. Brenton Foley home in 7th. That drive-through penalty really cruelled his chances of finishing in the top 6. It's points, though, for PBF, with Brendan Ross getting home in 8th place. And as all the rolling starts to happen, Wayne Spencer in 9th and Caitlyn Duncan rounding out the top 10.
Bit of a lean field tonight, but not that much attrition tonight. Only 3 DNFs. Lion Mitch was the last of those. Then Scott Stancliffe earlier on, and Thomas McMillan, the first DNF of the race. And our final 2 finishers, Termo and Rhodey, in 11th and 12th. So solid job to those guys to manage to get, and everyone who finished, managing to get through nearly 60 laps of this absolute bull ring of a circuit. And very well done there. Luke Rosella, Kurt Stenberg, and Will Devonish, the top 3. A stellar drive from Steve Burko, finishing in front of team boss Lewis Wedding.
Yeah, very, very handy promotion, I think, into the top tier seat, I guess we call it. So very good call up by Lewis Wedding to make that happen. Some nice points on the table for Loose Sim Sport and FGX Ford Falcons after all that one. And just waiting to see everybody trundle up here from their celebratory donuts as they all get in. We might actually start with Will Devonish here, I think, Hans. Let's get the lowdown. Will, you're catching Kurt Stenberg right toward the back end of the race there. Your pace was staggeringly a lot faster than what we were expecting at that point in proceedings. What do you put that down to? Do you think Kurt maybe went into a little bit of a saving strategy at the end of that race?
I think a bit of both. I think it was pretty obvious he was backing off quite a bit. I don't know how many strikes he had for curb hots. And yeah, that final stint was one of the best stints I've done in a V8. So I had all my curb strikes piled up for that last stint. I only got 1, so I was able to just keep charging through as much as I could. I don't know, if another lap, we might have been able to do it.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking up here too. Another lap, and you probably would have been, having a stab down into turn 2 or turn 1. The margin just came down something staggering over the course of the last couple of laps, and it was really the battle that was captivating us toward the back end of that race. But you end up with P3, so it's not all going to waste, but probably going to be ruining, I guess, starting a little bit further down the grid than what you ideally would have liked. But talk us through that early race battle with Thomas McMillan, because the car seemed to get away with very minimal damage after he decided to take flight at the chicane.
Yeah, my pit crew was saying to fix everything, but it was driving pretty well. I think it was mainly aero that we lost, and that's not too much. That's not too bad in a V8. Yeah, it was a bit odd on that back straight. He had right away at the 150 meter mark, and I found the throttle after that. But we sort of both did the same thing, I think. And yeah, he went straight on, and yeah, that invisible wall got him.
Yeah, it was a bit of an unusual sort of thing when we were riding on board and seeing that you did the right thing, gave way at the 150, but maybe he thought something similar and then tried to cut the chicane, and you're right, ended up straight into those, sadly, the invisible wall. But nonetheless, you escaped out of it. You've escaped out of it with a 3rd place finish, so not all bad news, but more points in the championship hunt. But you're going to have to start piling up a few more results in front of Stenny, I think, if you're going to continue to take the fight to him with just 5 rounds left.
And we'll do what we can.
Congratulations on 3rd place. Hans, our series leader, home in 2nd tonight, but far from beaten.
Yeah, Kurt Stenberg, he was up against it tonight, but he managed to salvage a second place, so a really solid job there. Kurt, how was that?
Yeah, mate, I'll be honest, a little bit disappointing. We had really good pace, but we just didn't drive consistently enough over the course of the event. So, yeah, cost ourselves a chance at a win there. But yeah, oh well, second's better. It's with front of wheel, so we're still gaining points in the championship. That's positives.
Now, made a couple of mistakes in that middle stint. Was that the point at which you thought, well, Luke Rosella's passed here, I'll have to keep fighting on, or were the tyres out, or just tell us in your words what seemed to go wrong in that second stint?
I'm not sure. I was in front of Luke. I was just cruising, really. I was cruising the whole race, and I thought, oh, yeah. You know, Luke's having a bit of a look at me, and then I made a little bit of an error. He got past me, and I thought, oh, I'll be able to stick with him and get back past. And yeah, he had really good pace and just sort of caught me off guard, I reckon. And I sort of overdrove a bit, put the thing in the wall at the that roundabout corner, and from that point onwards, it really I didn't think I was going to be able to beat him. It was just tried to see if I could catch him, but yeah, it wasn't going to happen. So just really consolidated for P2 after that point.
Now, heading into the business end of the season, you're still ahead in the championship by some 200 points. Is it a matter of managing the gap from here, or do you really want to win some more races and really finish the year on a high note?
I do want to win some more races to finish the year on a high note, but yeah, if stuff like tonight happens and you realise mid-race you're probably not going to be able to win it, best just to back out of it and consolidate the result.
Excellent job, Kurt. You did very well considering the circumstances tonight. Not characteristic of you to see a couple of mistakes there, but a good solid points haul. Well done.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
And Steve, Luke Rosella, he's come on gangbusters. He's won a race in the Boxer Cup already, and he's now a supercar race winner. Luke Rosella, congratulations. Just fantastic effort, mate.
Yeah, I'm just really surprised, to be honest. I never thought I would have this sort of pace coming into today. I guess, been busy with uni, so I've had sort of limited practice. But I'm just sort of speechless, to be honest. So it's great to finally get a win in AMS Oz Supercars.
Now, Luke, you certainly got your skates on in the second stint of the race. Was that a matter of just seeing Kurt make a mistake and you thought, head down, bum up, we'll get the pace going here?
Yeah, so I was sort of learning sort of the car because of lack of practice. I was sort of learning the car in the first stint, and I worked out I could actually just push the car throughout the whole stint, and I'll have a bit of tyre left. So yeah, second stint, just tried my absolute hardest, and I guess it worked. He made a mistake and had a little bit of a good battle with him, and yeah, just pushed on and got a pretty good lead on him coming out of the second stint.
And you used up all your track cuts early. The next track cut you were going to get was going to be a drive-through penalty. Just tell us how that felt, trying to manage that and manage the lead of the race with a hard-charging Kurt Stenberg and Will Devenish behind you.
Yeah, that last stint it gave me anxiety, I have to admit. Just thinking about everything that can happen, of course, getting that final track cut. My game might freeze, all this stuff. And just, final few laps, definitely, I was just going really conservative, probably because I went down to 4 seconds. And got through finally and get a win. So it's probably my best performance this year in sim racing, I'd say.
And from what Steve and I have seen tonight, definitely one of your best performances for sure. Congratulations, Luke, on your first win in Supercars and your second win in AMS Oz series in only a matter of a couple of weeks. Well done.
Thanks, Hans. Yeah, I really wanted to carry that form from Boxer Cup into here, and certainly did that. So thanks, guys.
Well, Hans,
Steve,
he gets to apply his trade next week, doesn't he? He gets to apply his trade in Boxer Cup on Tuesday night too.
That's right, and a new race winner in the Supercar series. So now we've got a few more race winners up on the rostrum. So that's always good to see, Steve. Mm-hmm. And what fantastic to see some of the depth in the field just with some of the guys coming into the series.
Yeah, absolutely. I second that as well. We've got good depth. There's a number of good drivers that are going to have a lot of longevity running in Supercars and Super 2. over the course of hopefully the remainder of the year, but also hopefully into next year as well. Well, we have a look. There's only 5 more rounds left on the race calendar for the Supercars. And if we take a look here, the next one of those is on the 3rd of September. So a little bit of a wait, actually. So that's another 3 weeks from tonight. It's the Sydney Super Night 200, so another long distance race. A little update on how that one is going to work. It's going to be a late afternoon into dusk. It's not going to be the full night situation, but it's going to be still a nice spectacle. The headlights probably won't be needed, but it'll be nice sort of setting into the dust. Similar sort of thing to what we saw in the GT3s on Tuesday night. So the Field Hands is going to pack their bags from Hamilton and travel back across the ditch to the Sydney Motorsport Park circuit in New South Wales. And I know it's one thing that we haven't had, I guess, a great deal of opportunity to do this year is do much travelling for stuff we do in real life, is it?
No, unfortunately, mystery events in the world have just managed to stop us. So who would have known that we'd all be sitting at home and this was as close as we'd get to the racetrack thanks to COVID-19. But it would be nice to be out traveling again, but hopefully we can get some good... we can just go and visit these tracks in the game, and it's just like the real thing. It's more realistic than other sports. So I guess that's something we've got going for us. Yeah. But also it would be nice to be out there as well. And I can only feel for especially those guys in state level racing in Victoria that they've had to face the same dramas that we've had. We just can't go anywhere in racetracks. So hopefully we'll be out once again soon, and we can stop thinking about pretend race cars and start looking at real race cars drive around.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. I had to, because of all the lack of travel, I had to do a sad thing the other day. I had to tell my suitcases that we weren't going away to Phillip Island or to Winton, and now I'm dealing with emotional baggage as a result. So, well, they're not very happy with me at the moment. So
I'm just going to see what the live chat says about that.
We will in a minute.
I think that joke will now be deleted because it's now outside of joke limits.
It is outside of joke limits. Here's the next four. Here's the next 4 rounds coming up for Automobilista Australia. So Super 2 tomorrow night, second last round of the season. The championship going down to the wire. It's between Burko and Lime Mitch. So there's 2 more races tomorrow night, and then there's another 2 races to come in a fortnight's time on the 28th of August at a track yet to be determined. Lewis Wedding will probably enlighten us somewhere along the line with that one.
We've also got some Fs in the chat for your emotional baggage,
I've noticed.
Steve.
There they all go. They're still going. Porsche Cup from Road Atlanta on Tuesday, the 18th of August. That'll be another great one to keep an eye out from. And then we go to the circuit that I'm a bit impartial about, but I'm looking very forward to this one, the GT3 Sprint Series on the 25th of August from the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. Now, just a word to everybody in the GT3 Series. I do have an affiliation with PIARC. I do some work for them, which is the Phillip Island Auto Racing Club, and there's a number of high-profile people that are interested in having a look at this particular round. So if you are racing in GT3 or you have got a car and you haven't run yet, please turn up to this round because we do want to see a really full grid and some really close racing and some fantastic racing on the night as well. So that could be a very, very important little thing that may result in some stuff for AMSOs moving forward. So please come out and support that event. And then the night after that is the next round of ATCC Group A at a circuit that we have not seen in AMSOs before. We're going to Lakeside.
Yes, the iconic Lakeside circuit. One of the few racetracks to close and then be reopened later on. So very interesting there. And also it will be pretty much a torture test for those cars. Very hard on tyres, very hard on fuel. Will they last the whole race without rolling over? Brock's made some changes to the mod, but we're going to see how the changes will pan out at Lakeside. Very tough circuit and very keen to see how that goes.
Yeah, me too. There's a few comments about that in the live chat saying it is a very, very bumpy circuit. And you're right, Hans, it is a circuit that was closed and is then reopened, but it is subject to, I think, a bunch of noise restrictions up there in Queensland in real life as well. So they can't actually race multiple categories there as well. And there's also a whole bunch of other things to do with, circuit promotion and all that sort of stuff up there, which we're not going to get into because it's a long and winded and boring story. So, but suffice it to say, it means that racing in the Sunshine State is not as it cracked up to be for some of the categories. Some people get preference and some don't. So, what we might do then is we'll call it a night. We've had 59 hard-charging laps of racing at the Hamilton Street Circuit. Thank you for your company, guys. As always, please drive safely, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.